Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Rise for Viksit Bharat event. As India advances towards the vision of Viksit Bharat, conversations on the future of education become more and more important. Reforming India's school education, Rise for Viksit Bharat, brings together people who deeply care about the future of education and are committed to finding solutions that help every child learn and thrive. Over the course of this afternoon, we will hear from leading voices in the education sector, engage in thought-provoking decisions, and launch the Ease of Operating School Index and Report. This is an initiative that seeks to bring greater attention to the role of regulatory design in strengthening India's ecosystem of education. With a huge round of applause, I would like to invite our guest of honor, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, Test Pilot, Indian Air Force, and ISRO astronaut, to please come up on stage and take a seat. I also request our CCS board member and renowned author, Mr. Gurcharan Das, and Dr. Amit Chandra, CEO, Center for Civil Society, to come up on stage. Please take a seat, sir. Ease of Operating School Index is a legal research that maps more than 180 laws across 30 Indian states. We will learn more about this index shortly. Now, to formally begin the event, it is my privilege to invite Dr. Amit Chandra to deliver the welcome address. Dr. Chandra has played an important role in advancing policy reforms across a range of sectors. He has also been a strong advocate for improving governance in school education. As the CEO for the Center for Civil Society, he has consistently worked to promote ideas that expand educational opportunities and institutional effectiveness. Please join me in welcoming him with a huge round of applause.
Thank you so much, Shabi. And I must say, it's a great honor and privilege to welcome Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, Gurcharan Das, our esteemed panelists, and I think almost everyone, each one of you in the audience. Let me also recognize there are people who have come all across the country to attend this event, because this report we are going to launch is also pan-India. It talks about all the states. So all the people who have come all the way from Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Maharashtra, Gujarat, all the places, thank you very much. It gives us so much of honor and pride that you trust our work and the subject so deeply that you make sure that you are here, right? Now, so I formally welcome all of you to this gathering. And in my opening remarks, I would like to cover basically three things. One, how did this idea of a report has evolved over a period of time? Second, why do I think it is so relevant to have a report like this? And third, how this entire audience and the journey that is going to begin from here. So the first idea, why we thought of an Ease of Operating School Index. And the story goes roughly 4 years ago. I was actually in Kashmir, and there are a few people also coming from Jammu and Kashmir for an education conference where I was invited, and I was talking about private schools regulation. And later in the day, over lunch, people from the association, school leaders met me, and they talked about some problem. Now, I don't exactly remember what they talked about, but they talked about a particular problem, and I said, Well, within the Act, there are different states who have created different kinds of rules, and therefore, in other states, it's not a problem. So the problem you are facing today, there is evidence and practice in other states, and therefore it can be easily solved. And that is what seeded the idea that actually what is possible in, let's say, Kashmir is not possible in Haryana. What is possible in Haryana is not possible in Chhattisgarh. What is possible in Chhattisgarh is not possible in Telangana. And I started thinking about, could I imagine documenting all the rule, regulation, norms and orders at one place for all states, categorized in a manner so that we can compare, and therefore we are able to cull out the best practices. So while the Act and broader regulatory framework remains the same, through executive orders and no objection certificates or different kinds of executive letter, etc., how things have been seen. And there is scope and opportunity that within the broader design also a lot of reform can be introduced. Certainly, a lot of reform has to come, and that is where the panel will be focused on. But within the framework also, a lot of innovation can happen, which is not happening. And therefore, over a period of time, we started thinking about it, debating about it, and finally, I'm so glad that what we thought, it started with one conversation, has taken a shape of a report. And my colleagues, when they will present the report, will talk more about it, and therefore I should not spill the bean. Now the second point is, why do I think a report of this kind is so important, and why have we named this gathering, this event, and this initiative, RISE, Reforming India's School Education? Some of you who we interact on the day-to-day basis were also part of the School Choice National Conference that we do annually. And in the last one, I had basically talked about why it is so important, so crucial to relook the education system and design if we are thinking about Viksit Bharat, right? Basically, I tried to make a case that currently our per capita income is roughly $2,000. If we want to become Viksit Bharat, it should be 20,000, which means roughly 10 times jump we want in roughly 20 years. And the second point is our demographic dividend. We know our population was rising, but now the new census is going to happen, and which will give us the latest data. But still we know that it's now going to plateau and come down. In some of the states, the population has also started decreasing. In fact, there was a latest news about Delhi. Now, Delhi fertility rate has gone down from 2.0. It is roughly now 1.8, right? So now we are going to reach faster to be from the youth and young population to an aging population. And therefore, that window, which is now available to convert our population, our kids into high capacity human capital, the scope is limited. The window is slowly closing down, and I am afraid that if we don't reform fast, it will be closed for possibly forever, or possibly for at least our lifetime. So we don't know. What I basically want to talk about, and if my colleagues could put a presentation, I want to get your attention on just few data points, and I would not really like to conclude, though I would relate to it, but I would really like all of you to take forward some of these basic thinking about it. Will this work? Okay. So the first slide, I won't spend too much time. I just want to show you the data. My first slide is basically about total expenditure combined by state and union government. And if you look at this data, you'll find in last 20 years, the budget has gone up from roughly 20,000 crore to roughly 1,40,000 crores. So if you see, the budget expenditure has gone up by 6 times in last 20 years. Second thing I want to talk about is number of government, private, aided schools. So if you see from 2005 and 6 to 2024-25, actually you see number of government school is lesser than what exactly it was. Even government aided schools have come down. What has gone up by roughly 3 times are the private unaided schools, right? So private unaided schools have doubled, government schools have declined or remain almost the same. And that talks about a structural problem. The teaching workforce also, if you see, which was something roughly like 33 lakhs in government school, has gone up to 52. Even unaided, you see it's a small change, but where is the biggest change coming from? From roughly 4 lakh to 40 lakhs, roughly 10 times jump in 20 years is once again the private unaided school. So that is the system. And therefore you see that is where the system is growing. This is the segment, in some sense, I could say one of the biggest employment generation program that has happened without possibly any employment advertisement, recruitment, notice, court cases, or even subsidy or employment benefits or pension schemes or whatever. The other data point also, if you see, once again, I'm just comparing what has happened in last 20 years. The enrollment in government school, which was used to be roughly 77%, has come down 50%, roughly 50%. What was roughly 11% for private unaided school has gone roughly 39-40%. So that section also has gone up by roughly 4 to 6 times. So for private schools, enrollment has grown up by 6 times. Now the key point here is, while with all of these efforts, you will see how this additional expenditure, more teacher, more number of schools, more facilities has helped us to get more number of enrollment. You'll find it marginally difference because it was already 93% in 2005, which has gone up to 98%. So the key thing is almost near universal access we have achieved, 98%. It's a great achievement. However, if you keep those data set in background, you need to identify that it was not possible to achieve without having the private sector at place. And therefore, this huge achievement should be seen as a co-creation, not just achievement of government policies. Now, if you look at the literacy rate also, how it has changed over a period of time, you'll find it has basically 16 points has gone up. Now, this is the key thing, right? So far, I talked about the more budget, more teacher, more school, everything. But kids are not learning. The ASR report says where they started in 20 years, they are almost the same. So even with all the effort that has gone into improving picture has not given us the result. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I would really urge you, prod you, suggest to you, request you that we need to think of out-of-box solution. It's certainly things which have been tried are not working out, and if we are not thinking about what's those big ideas, how do we reform, I don't think the same practices that we have tried in last 20 years, we continue with the same ideas. I think we are going to miss this big bus which will take us to the Viksit Bharat. And therefore, we need to think about new ideas, new vision. Now, the moment we start talking about, this entire conversation would give you a picture that I'm just advocating for more and more private schools, which gives a roughly a negative impression. But as long as when we think of private school, we think of elite fancy schools only. But if you look at the numbers, actually roughly 82% students, they are paying a fee which is less than 2,000 rupees a month, which means 24,000 rupees a month. And by the way, there are school sitting here from Delhi, Delhi government spends roughly 87,000 rupees per child per year, compared to 82% paying just 24,000 rupees a year. So if that simply indicates we have enough resources and budget. It's the quality of spending, it's the efficiency, it's the smartness. I think now the pendulum needs to shift from just thinking about access and equity to quality, efficiency. So how do we make most of it? And if we continue going by the way things are happening, possibly it will be difficult to reach the target, right? So basically this is where I wanted to get your attention and attention of the next speaker who is going to present about our methodology and key findings. This report will give a lot of insight as to what kind of reform ideas that we should talk about. And in the next panel too, I think the panel will deliberate on ideas, keeping some of these data points in mind, and think about solution. So I don't believe just only critiquing things. I look for solutions. How do we address, what do we do, and how do we move forward so that there is a roadmap available, and with this roadmap we can reach out to the state government and all of these players and create a kind of a campaign and momentum. Now, as I close my conversation, I think this entire effort by multiple kinds of school, private, aided, unaided, missionaries, charities, etc., needs to be seen with a different lens. And that lens, I would say, let's democratize education. It has been put in control and put in bureaucracy for a long time, which has not given us enough of the result as we expected. With Viksit Bharat, the aspiration is very high. It's a goal that we must try to achieve, but we need to exactly think about what, why, how we are going to do. Now think about it, the people, the human capital you, I are going to deliberate about. The human capital we need in 2045, 47, they are sitting in classroom today at grade 1, right? So we cannot afford any further delay. The reform urgently needs to happen today. In next 8 years, what kind of foundational learning we are going to take them today will decide whether future we can achieve it or not. So I would like to conclude my this brief talk. The human capital that India needs in 2047 is in grade 1 today. We need to stop debating about whether it's a private school or government school or whoever does the job, give them a chance. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Chandra, for setting the stage today, for today's discussions, and for reminding us the importance of building an enabling education ecosystem as India moves towards the goal of Viksit Bharat. It is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Animesh Kumar to present the Ease of Operating Schools Index and Report. Dr. Kumar is Manager of Research and Training Programs at Center for Civil Society and has over a decade of experience in the legal field. He has published more than 40 papers and edited 3 scholar volumes on issues relating to law and poverty. Over the past year, he and his fellow researchers have undertaken an extensive effort to map and analyze more than 200 education legislations across India for over 150 regulatory parameters. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kumar as he shares his journey behind the index and its key insights from the landmark study.
Thank you, Sevi, and namaskar to all of you. Thank you all for joining us this event. Moving ahead and building with the context set by Amit, I will quickly walk you through the EoOS Index 2026. This study examines how state-level regulatory framework affect the operation of private schools in India. Our objective through this study is not to assess the learning outcome, but to understand whether regulation enables private schools to function effectively. Next, please. In the next 15 minutes, I will take you through some key highlights of the EoOS Index. The first, why private school matters, what EoOS Index is, the framework and methodology of the index, the 6 domain of assessment that we studied for our study, and finally, I will take you through the key finding of the study. Next. Impact of private school. As well said by Amit Chandra, as why we have studied private schools. Before one look into the law and regulation, it is important to discuss why we studied private school in India and why this index was prepared. Also data shared by Dr. Chandra, we have seen that in the past 2 decades, how the private school have increased. And as per the latest UDI's data, today, unaided private schools constitute only about 23% of total share. However, they educate about 40% of all students. When we consider both private school which receives grant and a private school which is not receiving any grants, almost about half of the total population is educated by the private schools. This means that the private school serve far more students than the numerical share suggested. And therefore, the regulatory framework governing private school is not a niche issue. It directly affects millions of children, millions of families across the country. Next. I will not go deep into the data as it has already been dealt by the Amit. But the large proportion of private schools serves low and middle income families. Many schools charges modest fee. Yet these schools often have to fulfill multiple approvals, overlapping compliance requirements, and administrative formalities. The question here is not whether the schools should regulate it. The question is whether the regulation is helping school to deliver education or whether procedural complexity are diverting their time and resources away from the goal of the quality education as enshrined in the Constitution of India, which is followed by National Education Policy 2020. Next. What is EoOS Index? The Ease of Operating Schools Index is India's first comparative and comprehensive assessment of school regulatory framework. It covers 28 states and 2 union territories, including Jammu and Kashmir and National Capital Territory of Delhi. The index evaluates how easy or difficult it is for a private school to operate within the legal and regulatory framework of the state. It is essentially a governance index for private school education in India. Next. Now question comes the framework. The methodology adopted was de jure. Again, the question is what is de jure means? This means we assess law, important government orders, and other relevant regulatory provisions as they exist on paper and are available in the public domain. The study focuses exclusively on private unaided schools because they are regulated differently from the government school in the different part of the country. Next. The domains of the study. The index measures 6 domains that collectively shape the operating framework of private school in India. The first, regulatory, clarity, predictability, and accessibility, which means can a school easily understand and access the law? The second comes the regulatory compliance, which means how difficult it is for a school to comply with the regulatory requirements. Third, the protection against arbitrary regulatory action, which means are there any safeguard against the discretionary decisions? I will take you through this sub-indicator which we have mapped. During the mapping or during our study, in Sikkim we find there is a prior requirement of notice for closure of or takeover of the management of the school. But when it comes to Telangana, in state of Sikkim, a notice is not required, not mentioned in the legislation. But when it comes to Telangana, it is particularly mentioned in the legislature, meaning thereby there is a least chance of arbitrariness. The fourth is financial sustainability and resource mobilization, which means can school manage their finance effectively? Fifth covers school life cycle operation, which means how easy it is for a school to establish, reorganize, expand, or continue operating the school. The sixth and most important is institutional autonomy, which means do a school have sufficient freedom to manage their day-to-day affairs? For this, I would take you to the example of salary fixation of teaching and non-teaching staffs. When we talk about Sikkim, it is determined by state, but when it comes to the state of Telangana, it is determined by the school managing committee, meaning thereby the school have a little autonomy to manage their day-to-day affairs. Together, these 6 domains captures the key interaction between school and regulatory states. Next. For our study, we have mapped a hierarchical structure of domain. At the top, we have studied 6 domains. As I particularly mentioned in the previous slides, we have covered the 6 domain. Under domain, it was divided into the indicators. Each domain were divided into several indicators. In total, we have covered 23 indicators. And under indicators, there was a sub-indicators. In total, we have covered 164 sub-indicators. The approach allows us to translate complex regulatory framework into a structured and comparable assessment. Next. Methodological design. These domains were selected based on the 3 criteria. That is regulatory relevance, variation across states, and availability of data in the public domain. Indicators were further normalized on the scale of 0 to 1, where higher score represent more enabling regulatory provisions. And finally, the scores were aggregated and generated the state ranking. Next. These are some of the benchmark which we believe that is a good for regulatory framework. That is basically the index was having a simple idea that there should be a regulatory framework which is accountable, predictable, support the institutional autonomy, and should allow the school to complete their operational life cycle smoothly and refrain from the unnecessary procedural barriers. The benchmark is not less regulation. Rather, the benchmark is better regulation. Next. The result reveals significant variation across the states. Telangana emerges as the highest ranked state in the country with a score of 29.69 score out of 100. The interesting part is an important finding of the study is Bihar and Assam perform strongly despite not being traditionally viewed as a leader in education governance. This demonstrates that the regulatory quality does not always correspond with the economic development. Next. Low and middle ranking states. Many have relatively developed educational system but continue to face challenges relating to procedural complexity and disproportionate compliance. States like Gujarat, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, which have generally regarded as economically advanced and administratively capable, perform below expectation in the EoOS Index. This regulatory framework continued to be characterized by extensive compliance requirement, restrictive procedure, and limited institutional flexibility. For example, While studying whether the fee cap can be revisited from time to time, we found that state of Haryana and Telangana, it is allowed. But in case of Sikkim and Karnataka, it is not mentioned, meaning thereby there is an ambiguity which may result in the discretion of executive body on how it is being interpreted. The key policy lesson in this is that state can learn from one another and adopt regulatory practices that improve both accountability and ease of operation. The experience of higher ranking state demonstrates that it is possible to maintain regulatory oversight while reducing unnecessary procedural barriers. EoOS Index is not an argument against regulation. It is an argument for a smart, more transparent, and predictable regulation. Next. By identifying regulatory bottlenecks and highlighting best practices, the index aims to support evidence-based reforms in school education. And before I conclude, I invite you to scan the QR code displayed on the screen to access and download the full version of the index. And we would greatly value your feedback, suggestion, any comments, so that your input will be added to strengthen the future edition of the index and contribute to the more informed discussion on school education governance. Thank you all for your patience listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for that insightful presentation and for taking us through the journey behind the EoOS Index. As we continue today's conversations, we invite all of you to share your thoughts on what it takes to build a Viksit Bharat on your social media. Please use #RISE and tag CCS's social media handles. It is my privilege to now introduce our guest of honor, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, who is an accomplished Air Force officer, an experimental test pilot, and an astronaut. Group Captain Mr. Shukla was commissioned into the Indian Air Force in 2006. He served as a fighter pilot and went on to qualify as a test pilot from the Aircraft and Systems Testing Establishment. His exceptional skills and dedication led to his selection by ISRO as one of India's first astronaut trainees under the Gangayaan program. Today, Group Captain Shukla stands as a symbol of excellence, courage, and innovation. Mr. Shukla, we are honored to have you with us. I now invite Sir to deliver his keynote address.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Can you hear me at the back, last row? Gurcharan sir, Amit ji. Before I open or talk about my speech, I would like to first clarify why am I here today? Why am I standing in front of you and I am coming here and talking about education? This same time last year, June of 2025, was the time that I was already in quarantine and waiting for my launch, because 25th of June 25 was the day I launched to space. And the mission lasted 20 days. I was there for a few more additional days in US, and then I came back to India. And the kind of excitement around the mission that I saw, it was a huge surprise for me. I was not expecting it. And it was just very overwhelming for me in those few months that followed. Everywhere I went to talk to kids, adults alike, talking about the mission, there was genuine excitement. And it was so heartening to see that everybody felt as if they themselves had, gone to space, which was very satisfying to me in a lot of different ways. And just a side note on that, so in my 20 days when I was in space, I traveled a distance of 1.4 crore kilometers. That was the distance we traveled. So since all of you felt that you were with me, I can tell you that for 140 crore Indians, I have traveled 100 meters for each one of you. So you were all there with me, so it is not unheard of. But what happened, what followed was that I very soon realized that it is not humanly possible for me to be everywhere, to go to every school, to talk to every kid. But each and every child is excited. And the dream of Viksit Bharat, what was being mentioned, 2047, I totally align with this concept that if we even remotely have a chance of getting somewhere close to that dream, we have to start with education. If we don't start with education, I don't think there is any chance that we can get anywhere close to that dream of Viksit Bharat 2047 that is there. And fortunately for me, I came across people like Gurcharan sir and Amit ji through certain conversations, and I've had certain conversations with them. And I was amazed of the kind of work that what they were doing in this domain and in this field. So I got associated in some ways and had certain discussions of what can be done, how can we change the way we teach, because all of us know, I think everybody can call themselves an educationist because this is how we grow up and we go to schools and we pass out. I also grew up. But whatever I learned in school and then when I went out and what I learned, there was such a big difference, there was such a big gap. So in a lot of ways, I think that it is all of our responsibility to be associated with education. Whatever field we are in, whether we are a doctor, we are an engineer, we are a pilot, we are an astronaut, we are all connected to education in some ways, because we all know this, we have all done that. So that is the reason I am standing before you today, because Amit ji has been very convincing, and he got me here. I was already in Delhi, and I'm very happy to be here because I'm told that all of you have traveled all over the country to be here to discuss these things. So what I will do is talk about briefly, my experience, because I'm sure you would be excited to know about that as well. And I will connect that experience with what we are discussing today. Because I learned those lessons on the job while I was doing those things. That was the time I was learning and experiencing, okay, this is how it is done. So this actually is a good day. Today is 19th, right? 19th of June. So day before yesterday, 17th of June, 2026 was the day I completed 20 years of my commissioned service in the Indian Air Force. So it just happened that it was a significant milestone for me. But going back last year, as I said, that at this point of time I was waiting for my launch, and 25th of June 26, when I was strapped onto the rocket for launch, it was 2:30 in the morning in Pacific time, and it was an evening time here in India. When I was there on the top of the rocket, I had a feeling that I am quite familiar with this. I know this because I have been a fighter pilot all my life. So I'm used to that feeling, when you engage the reheat, when you engage the afterburner on the takeoff roll, you get a kick and then you get airborne. So I felt I know this. This is very familiar to me. And I was the only pilot in my crew. None of the other 3 people were pilots. But when that ignition happened, when the rocket ignited, there are 9 engines on the Falcon 9 rocket. When they ignited, the force was so powerful that it completely took me by surprise. I was like, what is this? What is this happening? I have no idea, because it is like throwing a stone from your hand. It was that powerful. Suddenly, it just lifts you up from the ground. And all my preparation, all my training, even the aviation training, in those few seconds, I just went blank, completely blank. I froze, literally, that what is this happening? I did not expect this. And it took some time, about 15 to 20 seconds before I could get back with the machine and then, do the things. Just to understand, why I'm talking about this force is because that rocket, it takes you from 0 kilometers per hour to 28,500 kilometers per hour. Around that kind of speed it attains in about 8 minutes. So it is not something trivial. It is really powerful. And when this force, your body experiences this, your chest gets compressed, your lungs get compressed, you cannot breathe. You have to breathe through your stomach. So, various things we do. But the lesson, out of this entire episode was that life is like this. Even for children and kids who are studying in classrooms, you can only take them so far. But the ability to navigate the gap from what they know and what they are actually going to experience is always going to be something that they will have to do themselves. So you cannot teach them everything. It is not possible. But what you can teach them is the skill to navigate that gap. That is what is teachable and that is what is trainable in the classrooms, which we don't. And so this is the first gap, first lesson when you are going up to space and you're reaching there. And anyways, this happens, you are traveling at about 8 kilometers per second, you reach the environment of space and suddenly your engine cuts off. And when your engine cuts off, you are already in space and now you are for the first time, you are in microgravity. That is, you're not experiencing gravity anymore. And it is very liberating. Being in space is very liberating, not in the sense that, you've attained some kind of freedom, but it is an absolute lack of struggle. You don't have to use effort at all. You are just floating in air all the time. So even though you are strapped in the seat, but you are not on the seat, you are floating in the air always. It is a lot of fun for everybody, all the young people who are here. If you ever decide to explore this, space is a lot of fun. You can do whatever you want. I wanted to do gymnastics when I was in school, when I was a child. I learned also till my 5th grade. I was not a very good gymnast, I had to give up. But I am an exceptional gymnast in space. So everybody, all of you are also a very good gymnast in space, I can tell you right now, because the environment is such. But it is also very disorienting in a lot of sense, because our senses, our bodies have evolved for this environment of gravity, right? So I'll take an example. Just the concept of microgravity is, it is not that we don't have gravity in space, we do have gravity, but because we are falling around the earth, continuously in a free fall, it is because of that we don't experience the microgravity. So what happens is, everything is falling. The station is falling, you are falling, everything inside the station is also falling. So let's say if I have a pointer that I'm holding in space and I let it go, it will stay here. It will not fall relative to me, because everything is falling. So this is also falling at the same time. So relative to me, it will not fall. But what happens is that you have gone from Earth. So your brain is still tuned to this environment. So in the initial few days, I was so scared to let go of things. If I have to leave this to do something else, I would search for someone and ask them, can you please hold it for me while I go and do something? It is strange how the mind works, because you're scared that this will fall and it will break. But it won't fall, it will remain here. If I was asking the Polish, there was a Polish astronaut with me and a Hungarian astronaut who were also flying for the first time. And if I was asking them this question, that can you please hold it for me? Interestingly, they would actually hold it and stand. Because they are also flying for the first time and they are thinking like me, So they would just hold it and wait for me while I finish something. Over a period of 5 or 6 days, your body gets used to this new environment. And then it becomes a natural trait for you that you let go of things, 5 things, you leave them, do your work, and then collect them, put them in the bag, finish off your work. And then it's not a problem at all. For the next 20 days that I was there, it was very convenient, very easy, working was very efficient. But then you come back to Earth with that mindset, that you can let go of things in space, you come back to Earth. Things fall on Earth. So the first evening, I remember when I was sitting on my bed and I was replying to a lot of emails, at some point of time I got frustrated. This was my first day post splashdown, hours, not even day, I would say. And in that frustration, I closed my laptop, I took it to the side and I left it. You can all guess what happened, things fall on Earth, so it fell down. But the lesson again, as I said, I'll try to connect it to the lessons that I try to learn from myself. Is the lesson here was that your mind is really a very powerful tool, very extremely powerful. It is not real around you. I know that gravity exists, things will fall. Even then, it could convince me to let go of the laptop when I was sitting there, and same thing when you are going up to space. And I also realized that it's true for anything else you want to achieve. If CCS and everybody sitting in this room has decided that we will change the way India does education, if really decided, really convinced ourselves, I think we will find a way. It will happen, in some ways or the other. That is a power that we all hold. We just have to really believe in that, and then we always, end up finding a way. Everything in space becomes very, very different, and it's same, everything that you do here on Earth, you end up doing there in space, but it just behaves differently. Your body undergoes a lot of changes because there is no gravity. All the blood from your leg, it shifts to your head. Your head becomes much bigger. It's about 1 to 1.5, 1.2 to 1.5 times. It grows in size. Your heart doesn't have to pump blood against gravity to your head. So it actually reduces in size. It loses its size by 10 to 15%. Your heart becomes smaller. Heart becomes smaller, head becomes bigger. The worst possible combination that you can have on Earth. But that is what happens in space. You become taller in space. You grow in height because the gravity is not pulling on you anymore. I was there by about 7th or 8th day, I grew by about 5 centimeters in height in space. But unfortunately, you don't get to keep the height. Once you come back to Earth, you have to give up the height gain that you had. So these are all the physiological changes that happen. And you do train extensively. I've been training for these missions in 2020, and in a sense, even much before that, all my aviation training has also helped. But nothing prepares you for what is actually going to happen. That you only experience when you reach there. And I'll again take you back for an example. The science experiments that I took with me. I took 7 different Indian experiments with me, and one of them was growing microalgae in space. And the rationale was that we wanted to grow microalgae because they don't take a lot of space, and it is very efficient in terms of nutrition, very nutritionally dense. So it can be a possible source of nutrition to address the problem of food security. And very simple experiment. There were 12 bags. I had to deploy them in the day in a place where there was uniform lighting, and then put them back at night, 8 o'clock, in a bag, completely dark. Every day for 12 days, I continued to do this, and I thought that this is probably the simplest of the experiment that I'm doing, until the final day, when I had to collect samples from each bag. So I had to collect 3 samples from each bag. There were 12 bags, so total 36 samples. Now I used a syringe to collect the sample, extracting this liquid. So I had to use a syringe. And inevitably what happens when you're using a syringe, even here on ground, I don't know if you have used it, but you'd always find that there are some air bubbles that find way inside the medicine, that. And what do we do when you see air bubbles? You turn it upside down, you tap it sometimes, and then squeeze it, right? The bubbles go out. Doesn't work in space because there is no weight, right? Nothing is heavier or lighter. The air is not lighter. It's the same thing. So no matter you do it upside down or tap it, the bubbles just remain there. What you have to do is you have to centrifuge it, give it a circular motion so that the force separates these things out. Theoretically, we know this, but now you cannot take the syringe, every single syringe, and put it in the centrifuge. There is a centrifuge on station, but you cannot take it and put it in that centrifuge and take out the sample back. So what do? You become the centrifuge. So I used to hold it as far as possible from my body and spinning around so that the bubbles separate, and then at the same time trying to pull the sample away. No books or no procedure or no amount of practice on ground could have taught me that. This is not something that I could have learned here in the ground. It is something that you discover, you realize, and you apply yourself, and you find a solution to that problem when you are there in space. And why I'm focusing on this, because I think in some ways this was alluded earlier as well. The workforce for 2047 was said that it is in grade 1 today, right? Yeah. They are in grade 1. And these are the kids who will grow into adults, whom we'll probably send to moon and then eventually to Mars. We don't even know the questions that they should be answering. All we can do is probably arm them with skills of solving problems. That is what we can do the best, because we don't know what are the problems they are going to face when they are going to reach there. We really don't know. And they have to be able to have the ability to figure it out, understand the problem, and then try to find a solution to those problems. So I think that is the key skill that is required. Every one of us, wherever we are, we should try to inculcate that in our own education system. And I've been shown already 5 minutes by this gentleman who is sitting here, so I'll try to wrap it up quickly. But in the kind of detail that I'm talking to you about space exploration, if I take it back to a classroom in India, what do we teach about space? And some of you must be educators. We just teach about planets, the solar system, and maybe a bit more about astronomy. That's it, nothing more. So this is what every experience that we have, every new learning that we have, I think it should find a way back into the textbook. And I was just mentioning to Gurcharan sir that fortunately, since the time I came back working with the Ministry of Education, we were able to design a module for learning through physical experiments in space. And that has been rolled out as a module from class 6 to class 12 in the Atal Innovation Mission all over the country. And soon probably it will find a way back into the NCERT books also. But every change counts. Every small thing, wherever you are doing, all of that definitely counts. Lastly, I would like to say one thing. We are making plans, we are generating reports, and everybody is trying. This is a significant number of people who have come from all over the country, and we are trying to address this problem. But I read a very nice quote somewhere, and the quote goes like this, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. No matter how good your plan is, if your culture is not ready to absorb the plan, it will never succeed. And so I think that in a lot of ways, there is a need for us to change that culture. And culture will change at homes, culture will change on the dining table, culture will change in everyday conversations. That is how the change is going to happen. Especially the kids, they have access to every single piece of information that you can imagine today. So access is not a problem. What is a problem is what to talk about, what to focus on. So if we can inculcate or create that culture, that these are the things we need to focus on for next 20, 30 years. And we should talk to kids like this. I think they are exceptional in their abilities of, figuring out what they want to do. We should talk to them, a 7, 8-year-old kid or maybe a 10-year-old kid. The conversation can happen, what do you think we should do to make India a developed nation by 2047? It's not a childish conversation for them. They will give you answers that will surprise you, actually. I was surprised by my own son. A few days back I asked him a question that if you could carry one thing to space, what would it be? And I was expecting he will say, he's 7-year-old, so I was expecting he would say dinosaur or some of his toys. And the first thing he said, I would need a rocket. And I was like, of course you will have a rocket, you'll be sitting on the rocket, that is how you'll go. So the next thing he said, okay, then I will take food and water with me. And I said, yes, food and water will also be there. What is the next thing that you would like to take with you? Then he said, I'll take my mobile phone. And I was like, okay, so he must be thinking that, he would like to play some games while he's up there. And then he supplemented, he said, no, when I plant the Indian flag on the moon, I would like to take a picture. So the ability that kids have to do the things for us is phenomenal, I think. And I think that is what we just need to cultivate, create a culture and make these things happen. Lastly, Amitji, Gurcharan sir, and all of you who have traveled from all over the country, first of all, I would like to extend my compliments to all of you. Whatever bit, wherever you are doing, however small, however big, doesn't matter. Each and every step that you are taking, it counts. It will make a difference in a lot of ways. I'm not a very big fan of this concept of private versus public, and I know the problem exists. Till the time we keep speaking in these terms, private schools and public schools, I think we are missing the point. It is education we are talking about, which is the responsibility of each and every one of us. But unfortunately, the ecosystem is such. There are distinctions that are being created in private versus public. But every effort that we take in the direction to minimize this gap, I think that is a good effort to ensure that these things end up happening in the right way. Again, lastly, I would say education is the single most important thing that will either get us to the dream of being a developed nation by 2047 or not. So thank you to each and every one of you for doing what you are doing, and thank you for listening to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause once again for Mr. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla. Thank you, Group Captain Shukla, for walking us through an inspiring journey and reminding us that with belief and perseverance, change or achievement is possible. You have also reminded us that education is the starting point of change. So the way in we speak about education is very important, and now is the time that we should rethink how we speak about it. I request you to kindly remain on stage as I invite Dr. Amit Chandra and Mr. Gurcharan Das for the felicitation ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now arrive at a very special moment this evening. May I request Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, Dr. Amit Chandra and Mr. Gurcharan Das to kindly remain on stage for the official launch of the Ease of Operating Schools website. To join them for this launch, I would also like to invite the authors behind the Ease of Operating School Index, Dr. Animesh Kumar, Mr. Nitesh Anand and Ms. Shavi Maheshwari, whose dedication and research have made this initiative possible. Please join me in welcoming them on stage. May I request the team to kindly hand over the tablet to Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla.
You both touch it and the website will go live. Yes, launch. Countdown.
Ma'am, the camera.
And there it is, the Ease of Operating Schools website is now officially launched. A big round of applause for everyone who contributed to this remarkable effort. Researchers, educators, policymakers and supporters who worked tirelessly to make this initiative a reality. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge Mr. Ayush Pandey, who is with us behind the scenes at the control desk as the full stack developer behind the website. Ayush played an important role in bringing this initiative to life and transforming a vision into a powerful digital resource. And now we move to the launch of the Ease of Operating Schools report. And for that, may I also now invite on stage our esteemed panel speakers, who you will hear them later in the day. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Indrani Bhaduri, Chief Executive and Head of PARAKH, Mr. Shailendra Sharma, former Principal Advisor to Director of Education, while Lieutenant Colonel Jitendra Verma, Officer on Special Duty NITI Aayog, could not make it due to an urgent commitment, we welcome Dr. Taneya Singh, School Education Consultant, NITI Aayog. I also request Mr. Vardan Kabra, founder of Fountainhead Schools and Senior Vice President of ARISE, and Mrs. Sunita Johar, Additional Director, Army Welfare Education Society, to please come up on stage to launch our report.
Thank you. So, Ginny, we open it?
Yes, please. Please give them a huge round of applause. We are delighted to announce the official launch of our EoOS report. And this report represents the voices, experiences, and aspirations of schools across the country. It is the result of extensive collaboration and collective effort, and we are deeply grateful to everyone who contributed to this journey. A special note of thanks to the schools, teachers, and students who participated in creating the explanatory videos for the Ease of Operating Schools initiative. These videos will soon be available on YouTube, helping bringing these important ideas to even a wider audience. For those interested, printed copies of the report are available outside the venue on request for a minimum contribution of 500 rupees, and every contribution will directly support future research and initiatives aimed at improving the educational ecosystem in India. Thank you so much, panel. Before we move ahead, let us once again thank all our panelists and distinguished guests for being part of this important milestone. Yeah.
The panel would continue.
I request the panel to kindly remain on the stage.
Both of us.
And a special thank you to Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla for taking the time to join us and grace this occasion. We are truly honored by your presence and support.
Okay, so we move on to the next element. But before we do so, a quick reminder to share your thoughts and key takeaways on social media using hashtag RISE, and please tag Center for Civil Society. We are now ready to begin with our panel discussion. The theme for today's panel discussion is RISE, Reforming India's School Education. It is my pleasure to introduce our panel moderator, Mr. Gurcharan Das. Please, a huge round of applause for Mr. Gurcharan Das. Mr. Das is a distinguished author and public intellectual whose writings have shaped conversations on economics, governance, and social change for decades. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Das. A very warm welcome, sir. As our panelists, we also have Dr. Indrani Bhaduri, Chief Executive Officer and Head of PARAKH and the Educational Survey Division at NCERT. With nearly 3 decades of experience in the education assessment, psychometrics, and large-scale learning surveys, Dr. Bhaduri has been at the forefront of shaping assessment reforms in India. Our next panelist is Mr. Shailendra Sharma, who is, ladies and a huge round of applause for him, who is an education consultant with extensive experience in school reforms and public policy. He has previously served as the principal advisor to the Director of Education, Government of NCT of Delhi. He played a key role in shaping and implementing reforms in the public school system. Before joining the government, he spent nearly 2 decades with Pratham, one of India's leading education non-profits. I also invite Dr. Taneya Singh, who is an education specialist and policy researcher currently associated with NITI Aayog. She holds a PhD in education from Jamia Millia Islamia. Her work spans education assessment, evidence-based policy making, teacher development, and the use of technology to strengthen teaching and learning. Through her work, Dr. Singh has contributed to conversations on improving the future readiness of India's school education system. A huge round of applause for her. Our next panelist, Mr. Vardan Kabra, who is an author, educator, entrepreneur, and a school leader with over 2 decades of experience in school education. He is the co-founder and director of Fountainhead Schools and currently serves as a senior vice president of ARISE, where he actively contributes to education policy and reform. Through his work across schools and community initiatives, he continues to champion learner-centered and a future-ready education in India. As our last panelist, we have Mrs. Sunita Johar, who is an additional director at the Army Welfare Education Society. She leads the academic initiatives across the Army Public School Network. With extensive experience in school leadership and administration, she has worked with some of India's leading educational institutions. She actively drives implementation of the National Education Policy 2020 in Army schools. She is also the architect of Overall Performance Index, a framework that promotes a more comprehensive and data-driven approach to evaluating school performance. Over the next 90 minutes, this diverse panel will explore how reimagined regulatory frameworks can better support accountability, institutional autonomy, and educational quality in line with aspirations of NEP 2020, that is National Education Policy, and Viksit Bharat. The final 10 minutes will be reserved for Q&A and comments from the audience. Dear panel, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we keenly look forward to this discussion. Over to you, Mr. Das.
We all know that nothing could be more important than reforming our education system for the future of India. Now, we are not going to create astronauts out of all our children, but I think the lesson that Shubhanshu has given us is the importance of making our education real, education relevant to our lives. And the system of rote learning that we have had has basically created a nation of parrots out of us. And really, frankly, you heard the statistics earlier on, and this report amplifies that. But the fact of the matter is that India's had a lot of successes, and we should be proud of them over the last 80 years. But education is not one of them. In fact, the fact is that the average school child, we may have succeeded in getting all our children into school, but the average school child gets a dismal education. And so, and frankly, reading the Pratham report every year, you just feel like hanging your head and crying every year. That here, what a waste of human capital. And when the PISA report shocked us, that India was second to last out of 80 countries in the world in a test that's taken globally, the answer of our policymakers was to stop taking the PISA test instead of reforming our education system. So that's not really what we want to talk about here today. That too, but the fact we all know is that the middle class abandoned government schools 2 decades ago, and now even the poor are abandoning government schools from the statistics that you have seen. And the ordinary aspiring Indian parent, whether rich or poor, and the fact is that a poor family will give up the chance of a midday meal, a free uniform, free schools, free school books, and still send their child to a private school. Why? Why has this state of affairs come to pass? And at the end of the day, the children, even in private schools, are not performing to the level that we would expect them to. I'll just end this introduction with a small story of a friend of mine who was a teacher in one of the best private schools in the world. It's a place called Andover, Massachusetts. And in America, it's rated as the number 1. It's a feeder school to the Ivy League, especially to Harvard. And she gave it all up to come back to India because she wanted to make a difference. She brought all her life savings of hers and her family's, and she started a private school. And she discovered that first of all, there were so many compliances that she had to put up with. You all know all this because you live it every day. So she had this burden of compliances, but every compliance required a bribe of some kind. And she said, I didn't come back to India to do this. And she worked for a couple of years, but finally she said, and these compliances are not once when you open a school, it's every year. Some inspector or the other. Anyway, the fact is, and the sad part of the story is that she just gave up one day. And she says, I can't do this. And so it moved me because she had been a close friend of mine. She had actually educated my own son, and I had got to know her. And that idealism. And so the question is, why can't we bring more idealistic people, not from around the world, but from India, from here, into education? And there are people there. And so that is partly what the ease of doing business and ease of running a school is all about. And that is one of the subjects of this panel. So let's begin. And we'll begin with 3 rounds. In the first round, each person will have 5 minutes to present opening remarks. In the next round, I will shoot questions at the person, and they'll have 3 minutes to answer. And in the third round, we may have additional questions of each other, and finally we'll open it up to the audience. So, let's begin. I'll come and join you, and we'll begin with Indrani Bhaduri.
There are mics on the table.
Yeah, there are mics on the table.
Opening remarks.
Opening remarks, you are, sorry, can you hear me?
Time begins now.
Yes, time begins now, and you are an expert in inquiry-based competency learning assessment. So that's a very important subject which the NEP flagged for us.
Namaste to all, and thank you for this opportunity. I will begin by what Gurcharan Dasji just talked about, the performance in Pratham and the performance in PISA, that is the Program for International Student Assessment conducted by OECD. First, by Pratham, just not Pratham, but the Ministry of Education also conducts a large-scale achievement survey. And it is called the National Achievement Survey. We have been conducting it right from 2001, since the ministry started funding through the first it was the now it's the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Initially it was the SSA. When we conducted the PARAKH was established as part of NEP 2020 as mandated as the National Assessment Center. And when we conducted this achievement survey in the year 2024, that is a year before last, on 4th of December. And we conducted the unit of sampling was district. And all the district report cards we conducted in 781 districts. At that time, there were 782 districts in India. We missed out on one district. So all the 781 district report cards are available out there in the public domain. And it talks about what a child has achieved, what are the learning levels at the end of foundational, at the end of preparatory, and at the end of middle. So we assess the child in grade 3, 6, and 9, corresponding to the pedagogical stages given in NEP 2020. That is the foundational, preparatory, middle, and secondary. Now, what does this report card says? That foundation, we are really doing well. We have improved. The learning levels have improved. And then this is also matches the Pratham report that, the ASA report that Pratham takes out. Though our methodologies, like, whenever a ASA report comes out and a NAS or now PARAKH Rashtriya Sarvekshan report comes out, people start comparing both of them. But then, when we look at the nitty-gritty, the statistics, time up? Okay.
No, finish your point. Just let's finish your point. Yeah.
So when we see that actually I didn't get to answer your question, maybe the second round.
That's the second round.
Yeah. So, like I was saying that we saw that in the foundation there has been learning gains, and this is also augmented by the ASA report. And this is why this has happened. Maybe perhaps the Nipun that we were implementing in the state, it is, what is Nipun? The national initiative for proficiency in reading and numeracy. It's a mission. Yes, we have taken up, the government of India has taken up in a mission mode. And this Nipun that is working in the states, and I would like to thank all our assessment partners, private, government alike, that everybody has been working with the states to see that Nipun succeeds, and it has succeeded.
Thank you. We'll break the format a little bit, because I think while it's fresh in your mind, what she's just been saying, I'll skip to the second round and ask you a direct question. Otherwise it becomes academic to come back. So really, if all this information is available, why isn't it published? You said it's on the website, but shouldn't every school have its results available to the parent? Shouldn't the child have this information available to the child so the child can improve? What's the purpose of an assessment otherwise?
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, again, So after this, when we conduct this PARAKH Rashtriya Sarvekshan, or when we used to conduct the National Achievement Survey, we do a post-PARAKH Rashtriya Sarvekshan intervention, wherein we go to all the districts in the states, right? We organize workshop for the district functionaries, and we tell them, look, because for you and me, it's a report may be easy to understand, but do the district functionaries, they understand? So we tell them, look, this is the report that is there for your district. These are the learning gaps. These are the competencies in which the districts are not achieving. So you tell me, how are we planning? What are the reasons for that? Why is it? Because, if I tell them that this is the reason, it might not be. Okay. So, why? I'm coming to your question. We do not, the National Achievement Survey, it's a large-scale survey. The purpose of the survey is to improve the system. So, the unit of sampling is district. If I disaggregate it further and give the school report, based on it will be not appropriate. It's a sample thing. So how as a teacher I can look at it? So if I, as a teacher, I'm in the district and I see the report card, all right, so in the district, in grade 3, these are the competencies which are not performing well. I, as a teacher, I ask a question, क्या ये चीज़ मेरे classroom में भी हो रहा है? मेरी कक्षा में भी क्या ये है? So
exactly. So this is my point, that you're doing all this work. Nobody seems to know about it. And the point what I'm trying to make is make it real. Make it real for teachers. मेरे classroom में भी हो रहा है क्या? Well, this should be available to the teacher. But does the teacher know? Every teacher knows where the lacking competency is. But what about the parent? Shouldn't the parent know?
Of course. We are talking about 100 lakhs teachers. PARAKH alone will not be able to reach out. And that is where all of you come into the picture. You need to, and I'm telling, I would like you all to Google PARAKH Rashtriya and tell me what you get. Please, all of you are carrying smartphones. Just Google PARAKH Rashtriya 2024 dashboard and you will get.
Okay, now it's just I want to leave this thought with you. We'll come back. But the basic thing is, so what you're trying to tell us is this is not really a census kind of thing. It's a sampling. It's a sample.
Large-scale achievement survey.
Out of how many children are you testing?
21 lakhs.
21 lakhs.
2.1 per million. No. All government aided, private, and it is as per the sampling procedure is such that it's a representative of the district.
I understand that. I guess we are not going to get too deep because the other people won't get a chance here if we go further. But I would really like to come back to you in the next, when we speak again. As I understand it, the purpose of an assessment is to help a child, to help a teacher, to help a parent. Is this being achieved today?
The purpose of the assessment is to help the child, the parent, the teacher, and that we are doing with our holistic progress card. The holistic progress cards have been devised for the foundation stage, for the preparatory stage, the middle and the secondary. And that documents how each and every child performs. And that is what I'm trying to connect, that from the large scale, using the results of the large scale, I connect to the classroom.
Okay, thank you, Indrani.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. I'm sorry may have taken a little longer, but we may have compressed 2 rounds into one. Now, can we move to Shailendra ji? Shailendra Sharma, who is been an advisor to the Delhi government and is familiar with the conflict of interest in running schools as well as regulating schools. So let's have your opening statement, sir.
So the fact that in the context of reforming India's school education, what we are talking about today is ease of operating a school. I mean, this sounds a little, contradictory, because we should be talking about ease of teaching in a school. We should be talking about ease of learning in a school. But here we are, almost 6 years after the launch of new education policy, almost 16 years after Right to Education Act, we are grappling with ease of operating a school. I mean, we have heard so many times different states organize ease of doing business, summit and forum, but have we ever heard any state organizing ease of operating a school? Come in my state, I'll make sure that the schools operate in a most efficient and seamless manner. I mean, when in 1968 Kothari Commission report came, what was the purpose of education that it said? Ki education is for nation building. Now, everyone who has set up a school, whether government or private, that means that you are participating in nation building. Now, in the process of nation building, if the people who are responsible for nation building are subjected to different kind of, say, regulatory stranglehold, then what kind of nation building are we expected to do? So these are inherent contradiction that remains. For my opening remarks, I would say that in terms of reforming the schools, we have long way to go. I would place them into 3 distinct buckets. The first one, of course, is teaching learning. What do we teach? How do we teach? That's a key component. In the last 5-6 years, a lot of documents have flown subsequent to the launch of education policy. We have different kind of curriculum frameworks coming. So a lot of buzz we hear around that. So that's bucket number 1. The bucket number 2 is of examination. And it is so ironic. Just read paragraph 4.37 and 4.38 of the National Education Policy. What does it say? It talks about reforming examination. It talks about curbing and ending coaching culture. It talks about how board examination, that is class 10 and 12, should no more be a high-stake examination promoting coaching of different kinds, and then entrance examination to the higher education gateway also. But I don't think, apart from writing this in the 2 paragraphs of National Education Policy, any headway has been made on that. That's a very big next thing. And the third, of course, is the overall framework of school management, where a very important policy recommendation is there to trifurcate the education departments functioning into 3 distinct bodies. I don't think any state has made any serious effort in that direction. So all in all, I would say that national education policy is like a romantic chapter, whereas the reality is like a marriage. So how do we transfer that romance into the marriage is a challenge that we all have to find ways to address. Thank you.
Thank you, Shailendra ji. Now, we have changed the format. We are combining round 1 and round 2. And so let me just follow up and put you on the mat. And that is, what you've said is very profound. And the answer of the new NEP was the idea of having a regulator that will take away some of the ills that were present from this conflict of interest that exists. And the question is, what's happened to the triple SA, and why doesn't every state have a triple SA, and why, even if it's, what's happening with regard to that? That was supposed to be the answer.
Okay. So, in fact, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla made a very interesting point. I don't know whether you noticed. He talked about culture. Now, in the entire ecosystem, if you see, and the question that Gurcharan ji is asking, is that the education department in the state, I mean, I'll take a step back to answer your question, sir. Because before education was moved to concurrent list, it was a state subject. And the design of a school education is with the state. The schools are run by the states. The management of the school is with the state. So you have as many states and you have as many state laws to conduct the school education system. And traditionally, the Department of Education in every state have to do all the functions. They have to run the schools as well as regulate the entire sector. So you are performing dual function. You are running the state school that the state itself has set up, and then you are regulating the schools which are set up by private entities. And there is a third category of also providing financial assistance, which is also called aided schools. So all these functions are combined in one department doing that. So ideally, the norm should be like equal for everybody. I mean, the kind of norms that you apply for the government school should be applying for private school also, but that is an ideal world. Private schools have traditionally come into being due to variety of historical reasons, but they are there. So you have low-cost private schools, which were essentially an outcome of a state's failure to provide education, and then you have a high-end.
Address the question, why haven't we made progress?
Because
on the triple SA?
In one sentence I'll give, nobody wants to give up Thanedari. The State Department does not want to, the Education Department does not want to give up on Thanedari.
Got it. I think we have another perspective from Indrani ji on this subject.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you so much. Just one line. Triple SA, State School Standard Setting Authority, has been established in 22 states. The notifications are out, and the next part of the notification, if you see how Triple SA is being envisaged, do I get into the details?
Yes, tell us.
Yes, very shortly, it is not one-time policing that we were doing previously. Remember, the inspections used to happen in the schools? The inspectors used to come? Now we are giving it's a support that we are giving to the school to improve. And that is how Triple SA has been, envisaged. You should read the document again. It is uploaded. And once the Triple SA is established, each state needs to administer the SCOF. So what is the SCOF? Anybody? We are ourselves not reading the document. School Quality Assessment and Assurance Framework. So this framework needs to be there, and all the SCOF frameworks are available again. It's in the public domain.
My question was different. My question was that here was, idea was of we all understand all your squaff, etc., you can keep with you, but we need a regulator. We need a regulator which can treat both government schools and private schools equally. And the question is, you said 2 states have done it.
No, 22.
22 have already set up, there is a regulator in all 22 states?
Yes,
And could you have the names of all those 22 people?
Of course, and I can give you the notifications also.
But they are not independent.
Okay. All right, okay.
That's a separate.
All right, I think,
Not always SCRT. No, if you see the...
Or the state board.
They're always there.
okay, this is good, because this is really finally getting into the nitty-gritty of things. Yeah, I think the question that the gentleman is
Yes, that
asked,
I agree. It's
that
still with the SCRT on the board.
yeah, the question ultimately is that the regulators that were supposed to be put in place were put in India. We have a mixed record. There have been excellent regulators which have reformed the whole sector. The first regulator in telecom. Telecom today, we wouldn't have 1 billion phones in our country if it weren't for that first regulator that we had, independent. We've also got regulators who are retired officials of the same department. And so therefore, it's very important to have the right persons as regulators. Anyway, we're not going to solve all the problems here. Let's move on to next. I have the pleasure of inviting Lieutenant Colonel Jitendra Verma. Okay, I'm sorry. I missed that. So, Dr. Taneya Singh, you'll now give us your initial thoughts on deregulation of schools.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
You can take this one.
Thank you for inviting NITI Aayog. Colonel Verma couldn't be here, so I've come in his place. But interesting discussion that just happened here. And we see that NEP is a very well-written policy, but the problem with our country more or less is the implementation. And since education is in the concurrent list, we have the states as the implementation body, which is where most of the problem comes into being. So this is a wonderful initiative that Center for Civil Society has taken to launch this index, which compares all the states across this ease of operating schools. At NITI Aayog as well, we have been undertaking this exercise for the past few months, where we had invited Dr. Amit Chandra as well and Sunita ma'am. So, so it is a wonderful exercise that the Center for Civil Society is doing. We would love to see the results as well. But the larger mandate of the government has been towards ease of operating schools. And we have seen very valid evidence coming up where we see the files have been moving across offices somewhere like 22 times is some data I came across. And there are executive orders that come at the last minute very randomly to the schools, and they're supposed to oblige by them in a very short period of time. There are loopholes in the laws and the acts, and these are exploited for rent seeking. We all are very much aware of it. And there are multiple duplicate NOCs that exist on paper, and these need to be submitted, these need to be renewed. So problems are many for the private schools, but I also want to bring some focus on the government schools as well, because the governance-related challenges that we are talking about are also related to the government schools, and they impact the government school teachers as well. And The issue is that usually government schools don't have MTS staff, non-teaching staff, so the burden falls on the teachers. And like Shailendra sir was mentioning, that the change that we need to do is on the teaching aspect. We need to improve the quality of teaching, be it across either kind of school, private schools or government schools. In government schools, the burden is doubled, because we have teachers performing duties like going door to door for out of school children surveys. We have teachers going to banks to create bank account for children so that direct benefit can be given to them. We have teachers taking a lot of data collection duties, and unfortunately these do not come up at a certain time. These duties that teachers are supposed to perform come up during the teaching hours. So this is really unfortunate that the teachers have to go about doing these and compromise with the instructional time. If you look at MCD teachers' timetable, you'll see that from period 1 till the end of the day, they're supposed to be taking classes. They're supposed to be teaching in the classrooms. Yet they are not able to do it because they are involved in all these administrative compliance burdens that come to the government schools as well. So I would have loved to see government schools also being included in the survey, the study that is being conducted. So just to conclude, I would like to add that the solution to the problem that we are seeing here, not achieving the learning outcomes, will come from improving the quality of teaching, and that we need to focus towards having more outcome-based approach towards all the data that we collect. So we need to monitor what is going on in the classroom. We need to have the middle cadre, the BRCs, CRCs, we need to train them and let them help the teachers, mentor the teachers, give them good academic inputs so that the quality of teaching improves in the classroom, be it in the government schools or the private schools. That's the only answer that.
Thank you, Dr. Taneya Singh. Following up, this is now round 2 with you. All the things you've said are important, but you know, India is the most over-regulated country in the world. And that's why the deregulation committees, these high-level committees, are so very important. And so we are really expecting a lot. And so to you, I'd like to ask, what would be your 3 top priorities for deregulation? What would be the 3 most important deregulation steps that could transform education in India? Have I put you on a mat?
Yeah. Since we just were engaged in this exercise, and I'm not very much at the liberty to share that much, but according to...
Forget the committee. I'm saying personally, as somebody who is engaged in such an important effort, you know, for some of us, actually, these deregulation committees represent another 1991 moment. A moment of azadi, when India became free. India did not become free in 1947. It became free in 1991. So just your own favorite, or even one, which would be the most important thing that could transform in terms of deregulation?
As a teacher, as a mother.
Well, sir, I'm not a mother, but sure, I can. So I think for me, most important is if we can regulate the instructional time that teachers are giving in the classroom. And this is not so much of a problem with private schools, but it is a problem with the government schools. So maybe it's not the right audience or the platform to say this, but
it's not the kind of answer we were all looking forward to. But let's move on. So the next, I'd like to invite Sunita Johar to talk to us. She has been concerned about the autonomy of giving autonomy to schools for obtaining higher quality education. Sure, absolutely. We can. Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm humbled to share the dais with Mr. Gurcharan Das ji, and whose profound understanding of the Indian growth story offers essential perspective to navigate the future that I can see the way we've been engaged in a discussion. I welcome all the panel members. I'm grateful to CII for this beautiful, productive afternoon. These gatherings serve as a vital purpose, reconciling the sheer grandeur of national ambitions with the nuances that we are talking about, daily complexities that define the classroom experience. In an era of rapid transition, RISE is our mandate to transcend administrative stagnation. When talking about administrative stagnation, we say, I'm from Army Education Welfare Society. We serve children of soldiers. Can I say something about what we are doing at EoOS? A few things. Yes. That would lead to reforming the education system of India. We have transferable, all our children are from soldiers' children and officers' children, and they face this difficulty of transferring every 2 years. We have done the challenge. This is a big challenge for us, because when a child goes from A school to B school, the entire dynamics changes. So that is how we believe in autonomy, and we believe in standardization as well. We can't have autonomy given to schools, because then we don't know what A school is doing and what B school is doing. When the child is moving from A school to B school, he needs some standardization that is to be followed in all the schools. Be it education, be it training, be it subjects, be it skills. We need to have that balance, that standardization in all our public schools. I begin with structural backbone, that is a consolidation of schools. Recently we were talking about K-12, the merger of schools. The merger was already done before it had begun by the government or CBSE. So we are heading 143 Army public schools and 250 Army primary public schools, and we have already done 124 mergers. When we are talking about academic performance index, we no more follow that. We have made a 50-page document which talks about overall performance index. Overall performance index is 1,000 marks which is given to right from infrastructure to sports, how schools are performing in every field. We have 8 domains in that, and all the 8 domains are evaluated, and school, by the end of the year, the principals do see where they are lacking in, whether they are lacking in infrastructure, whether they are lacking in the sports infrastructure enough, and is inclusive education being taken care of. And this is the envision for Viksit Bharat, I would say. OPI is diagnostic tool. It allows our principals to see the real time at the ground level what's happening. We've aligned it with SCOP, School Quality Assessment. And she was talking about SCOP. Our schools, initially the inspection was being done in the schools were left to their own. It's not an inspection, it was the schools were evaluated on. The schools were given a free hand to evaluate themselves objectively. And OPI is also doing that. Initial report, we had it as a pilot last year, and initial report said 100 on 100 in infrastructure, which we objected to. If you are 100 on 100 in infrastructure, then there is no room for improvement. That is how we evaluate, and we do curb our schools for objectivity. You know, we ask them to be objective in evaluating themselves. Self-assessment, it is called. We have Faculty Development Research Center in our Army Welfare Education Society. It is a center of excellence where we train our teachers pan-India. And the CBSE resource people come here, and we conduct the 25 hours of comprehensive program, which is called CPD. CBSE says 50 hours of CPD have to be done, and 25 hours are to be done by CBSE imparted training. So this is the human capital engine of Viksit Bharat. National Mission of Monitoring by NCTE, we have registered almost our 95% of our teachers pan-India in National Mission of Monitoring. We have moved teaching out of isolation by registering our entire network into this sharing of knowledge, where they are in a platform where they share with each other. Our EoOS was recently awarded, we got the President's Award for Inclusive Education. And we define inclusion through 3 non-negotiable vectors: barrier-free architecture, pedagogical accessibility, where individualized education program is run, and the integration of specialized education into mainstream classrooms. So the President's Award, we are demonstrating exactly what a truly inclusive Viksit Bharat looks like. When we are talking about, I was asked a question about autonomy. Right?
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yes,
autonomy, but specifically, if I could ask you, Sunita ji, what progress have your army schools made to move from rote learning to inquiry-based, competence-based learning?
As I said, we have Faculty Development Research Center where the teachers and faculty members from all over the country, pan-India, right from Leh to Trivandrum, they come here for training. And we do have different training, and we do inculcate the value system and the rote learning. We have project-based learning. We have competitions that the schools participate in. The children are doing very well in the competitions like Ideathons. They participate in other competitions that CBC is like Expo, Skill Expo, Science Challenge, ISRO, and all those competitions. And they prove that the rote learning no more exists in Army public schools. They are into creative thinking and problem solving. We have recently launched a competition through Ministry of Commerce about IPR. So tomorrow is the screening of that competition. It was specially launched for Army public schools.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move to the last person. Mr. Vardan.
Should I come back or should I stand here?
You can stay there, if you can come back, whatever you feel
Any
like.
further questions maybe? I'll like to
Not right now. So Vardanji, could you talk to us about, you have a lot of experience in, you're a founder of an IB school, and we'd like to hear your thoughts and what you've learned about the system and the liberalizing of that system.
Thank you, sir. I want to start by saying that I'm going to be controversial in general, not for this audience, because this is CCS, so I understand where they're coming from. But otherwise, it is going to be controversial in general. So so I'm starting with the disclaimer to say that. And yeah.
The purpose is
Yes.
to be controversial.
Yes, sir. So I want to start by saying that, and I think Group Captain Shukla ji said it very right when he said that we need to be teaching problem solving to our kids. They need to learn how to recognize problems, figure out how to solve them, learn to observe. He was talking about the experiment with the microalgae. He mentioned that, he said that beautifully. I mean, the syringe issue that he talked about. Now, these are real problems. These are real things that children need to be learning. Unfortunately, they're doing none of these things in classrooms today in general. And of course, there are exceptions. There are exceptions in elite schools, there are exceptions in government schools, and there are exceptions in low-income schools also, and I know some of them. Many of them are sitting here as well. So I'm not talking about the exceptions, I'm talking about the general there. And more specifically, I do not believe that government schools have the capacity to deliver this. It is not that the intent is not there. I don't think the capacity is, because education is such a high touch point, it needs so much intervention, it needs so much monitoring that none of our systems, ma'am spoke about training of BRCs, CRCs, there's a whole structure and it's been there for ages. And yet, that delivery, the foundational learning delivery has not yet happened for nearly 75 years. I mean, it's still not happening, irrespective of what the data might show some trend towards. Hopefully that's positive, but in general, it's not happening. The weak state capacity will not be able to solve the educational problems, and today's children need even more complex learning. I mean, now, I'm sure all of you have talked about AI and how it's going to change everything. It's changing the world of work. A state education system will never be able to keep up with the demands of the real world at the pace at which needs to. So that's my first submission, sir. And therefore, my viewpoint therefore is that, and then I think Shailendra sir spoke about it initially, that first the outcomes need to change. The examinations are still rooted in rote memorization. Till that happens, no amount of good work that most schools, most teachers try to do is not going to make a change, because by the time you are in the years that matter the most, high school years, you are still rote memorizing most of the content for the examinations. So a lot more autonomy needs to be given. The best education systems that we speak about, the Scandinavian systems, the Finnish systems, the teachers have a lot more autonomy. Of course, they are very well trained. There is some amount of regulation and monitoring about what they're doing, but there is a lot more autonomy to them. And they are researchers themselves. They know what to change and modify as the children are learning. The regulatory aspect needs to come along, and I think this is where the ease of operating schools is very, very important. And it being a state subject, there are limitations to what even a deregulation commission can do, because it's a state subject.
But there's a deregulation commission for states also.
I have, yeah, but I have not heard anything about I don't know anything happening on the education front. I know the deregulation committee has done quite a bit of work on education at a central level. I don't know. Personally, I don't know. Maybe there is work happening.
Go ahead.
Yes. So, to me, I think the first thing that needs to happen is that the regulation needs to stop being input-based norms, which is classroom sizes, which is teacher-student ratios, playground sizes, and these are all recommendations I know that have been taken up very seriously also, and are being taken up. I know again many schools here who really struggle to get basic certification, basic license, because they don't meet those norms, and they're still doing a much better job than the free government school with the midday meal and the free uniform. So that's my first point.
That's so true.
Thank you. So the second one is that the schools are still operating under a non-profit regime, which is not helping the cause of education. At all levels, education will grow well when there is a lot more patient capital that needs to come in, and patient capital will not come in. The right patient capital will not come in unless it is liberalized financially as well. So that's my second point. The third and a logical point of view would be what happens to all the students who cannot afford that education, because private schooling may be expensive, but as Amit himself said in the beginning, public schooling is even more expensive at this point of time. The fact that, and in all surveys, research shows that the poorest governments also spend 40 to 50,000 rupees per annum, to the more richer government spending even 1 lakh plus. And I ask the audience here, yeah, exactly. So, and I ask the audience here, especially those running low-income private schools, what would you be able to do with 80,000 rupees per annum per kid? Wonders, right? Anyone doubts that? I mean, so, and I know I'm speaking to the right audience, so I'm okay with that. So I think, and then that's what the AAA's essay is about. It needs to get out. I mean, and the whole issue about Thanedari lies right there, because government cannot be running schools and regulating them to doing both of those things together. If it funds students through parents, either it is direct benefit vouchers or education vouchers, then it can allow the best schools to compete for that funds, whether it is a private or a government school. And that's my... And the last thing is the only thing that the government really needs to do, and that's where, ma'am, I think what PARAKH is doing, the institution is doing, is fantastic, and we need that to happen at hopefully a census level, not just at a because there is, and I understand that there are challenges with doing, and I understand there are huge challenges with doing that, but that's what the government should be doing, monitoring the foundational literacy numeracy results, publishing it at a school level, not a child level, because that can remain with the school if they wish to understand that. And probably the only other thing, second thing, is to look at whether the school is having a safe environment within the limitations at which it operates. I mean, I think that's the only role that the government should be playing. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Vardan. I think you've crystallized many of the things that were on the minds of the audience. And before now we open up the discussion to the audience, let me just ask you that as someone who's operating a school, obviously a high-end school, but it's not a high-end, low-end issue. It's really the issue which all of us have been touching upon it, is this issue of getting rid of rote learning. And it would seem to be a very difficult job when for 75, 80, hundreds of years, that's how we've been teaching children. That's how teachers are trained to teach children. So now, if you had to, how would you go about retraining a teacher who spent all her life teaching in a certain way, and now telling her that, look, you've got to be relevant. You've got to talk about the real world. And you've got to not just say 2 plus 2 is 4, but answer why is 2 plus 2 equal to 4. And so, can you give, because I'm sure all the school founders, principals, teachers here we have today, they would be very interested to know that, and you must have also thought about it.
Absolutely, sir. So I think the framework has to change for that to happen. I believe that teachers as a lot are very resilient, and they will they will learn to deliver what they're expected to deliver. At this point of time, they're expected to deliver rote memorization, and they are doing their best at doing it, because that's what the school demands, that's what the parents demand, that's what the society demands. So that's what they are delivering. No, society also demands. What are we advertising as our toppers? I mean, what are we fitting as our toppers? I mean, there are people with getting 99-100%, right? I mean, they are the ones. So that's so. Again, going back to what Shailendra sir said, I mean, if the assessment continues to ask the same set of questions, and I take, and I've written about in my book also, and I will take that specific example to say that for the UPSC exam is one of the most highly rote memorization based exams across the world. I mean, it is the most difficult, but it's exactly the most difficult because there is so much content which is completely useless. The moment that officer gets into his role, what is the value of all of that 5 years, 7 years, the average preparation years? So much of our youth is wasting time in doing that, sir. So,
okay, I think on this positive note, let's open up. I think everybody wants to ask questions, and let's. We don't want to be unfair to you, but really, I think we are on the same side. We're on the same side.
Thank you.
We are on the same side, and Shubhanshu was right that let's forget this business of private versus government. The issue is how can we bring up our children?
Let's solve the problem.
Let's solve the problem. So let's open up and I see lots of hands. Now this is going to be a difficult job. The lady over here, since we'll begin with the ladies.
Thank you so much for the honor.
Ladies first.
Well, hello. Good afternoon, sir. It's really honored to be a part of this program, and I just would like to ask a question to all the panelists. We were talking about education, rather we were talking about parrot learning system, which Gurcharan sir told at the beginning only. Because as of now, what we are doing is only parrot learning, whether Thanedari or whatever it is. But I have a question to all the panelists, rather to all the educationists who all are present out here. Let's see, what we are doing, like I am a very bad student. I was rather a very bad student, you can tell me. And now my son, I don't want my son to go on through the process of examination and everything till class 10, 12 or whatever is the benchmark. Then what is the other process that my son get through some other job? Because in India, we don't have any other variety of learning that through he or she can get a job. So don't you think it is very important? Do you think every child, they need to set on this benchmark of getting graduation, masters, and then only he or she should get a job? But don't you think we all should think, because other countries, they are much ahead. My cousin, she's staying in States and she says, I need to go through the plumber, he's my next door, but then I need to take his appointment. But why it is not? Like in India, we are only focusing in studies and the marks and the scores. Why we are not looking into a whole round development of all like vocational courses and other things? So this is what I want you all to reply.
Okay, now you've raised a much more bigger philosophical question.
Yes, this is what I always wanted to ask.
Giving the plumber as much importance as a nuclear scientist. I agree with you.
Just think, everybody is not ready enough to get 90% or 100%.
Correct. And I think we've got your point. We've got your point. Sunita would like to answer you. Yeah.
Here you're talking about vocational studies. We are giving a lot of emphasis on skill development these days in schools. And the children, we have this Kaushal Bodh and Kaushal Vikas that is to be done by the students. And there are a lot of project-based activities that are to be. NEP has brought a lot of change, but provided we implement it in the right way. Yes? And so we need to change the mindset of parents.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
I think she's asking, anyone else in the panel wants to answer? Wants to.
No, I wanted to tell, like as she said, plumbing.
Yeah.
So any other skill you are talking about. So we need to change the mindset of parents. We only want them to become doctors and engineers. So how many, if you have a degree in plumbing and tomorrow you have to, set up your marriage of your child with that person, would you like him to be a plumber? No. I mean, that is the mindset.
No,
that
so
Indian
that's the
parents need to
question of
change.
culture.
Yeah.
Let's stick to what we can, from an education point of view, in terms of reforming schools. Let's not get into philosophical change of culture and nation culture, etc.
Yeah. So my take on this is that the large driver for this is how recruiting is going to change. It's not going to come from education from within, because that is something, education is going to drive where the recruitment is going to look like. And the moment that changes, then they're going to be looking at skills.
Okay, good, quick answer. All right, the gentleman behind you.
थैंक यू सर. सर मैं हिंदी में सोचता हूँ तो कोशिश करता हूँ हिंदी में आंसर दूँ. इज देयर नॉट एनी प्रॉब्लम? तो सर प्रॉब्लम ये है कि जो अभी
स्पीकर में बोलिए.
जो आप कह रहे हैं कि मतलब बच्चे को पता लगे कि मैं किस फील्ड में जाना चाहता हूँ, मेरे अकॉर्डिंग जो मैं सोचता हूँ इसी से उसकी स्किल बेस्ड एजुकेशन कंप्लीट हो जाएगी. प्राइमरी तक हम लोग ये सोचते हैं कि उसको थोड़ा सा लैंग्वेज वगैरह पढ़नी आ जाए, मैथमेटिकल बेसिक जो आ जाए, उसको क्लास 6 to 7th 8th में उसका सिलेबस मेरे हिसाब से हाफ कर दिया जाए जो अभी है. क्योंकि हम में से ज़्यादातर लोगों को ये नहीं पता होगा कि पानीपत की 3 लड़ाइयाँ कब कब हुई थी और किस किस के बीच में हुई थी. कोई ज़रूरत भी नहीं है. ना ही किसी को ये पता है कि इलेक्ट्रॉन मॉडल की खोज कैसे हुई थी, कि एटम के अंदर क्या क्या है, और ना ही सबको ज़रूरत है. तो वहाँ पे उसको 6, 7, 8 में सब चीज़ों की सिलेबस को हाफ करके ऐसी चीज़ें उसके सिस्टम में लाई जाए ताकि वो पता लगाए अपने आप के बारे में कि मेरे अंदर किस किस तरह की स्किल्स है जो मैं अपने आप को एक्सप्लोर कर सकता हूँ. और जब वो 6, 7, 8 में ये सब चीज़ें कर ले, 9, 10, 11 में सर 1 मिनट और.
तो क्या सवाल आपका क्या है?
सवाल यही है कि जो आप चीज़ चाह रहे हो स्किल बेस्ड पे वो बच्चा पता लगाए, और वो सर सवाल के आगे आंसर भी है कि 6, 7, 8 के साथ साथ
आपने जवाब भी दे दिया.
नहीं, जवाब तो दे रहा हूँ, सर कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ. कि 9, 10, 11 में उसको 3 साल का एक डिप्लोमा हो जिसमें वो अपनी स्किल्स जो भी हैं उसके अंदर 6, 7, 8 में जो एक्सप्लोर कर ली गई सिस्टम के द्वारा, वहाँ उसके साथ वो चीज़ें वो पता लग जाए जिसमें डिप्लोमा करना है, चाहे वो मेडिकल का है, चाहे वो इंजीनियरिंग का है, चाहे वो प्लम्बिंग का है, चाहे वो किसी भी XYZ और फील्ड का है. 50-60 तरह 100 तरह के कोर्स हों जहाँ वो अपने आप को एक्सप्लोर कर सके. और तब उसके बाद 1 साल की इंटर्नशिप हो. उसके बाद जिसको करना है वो आगे हायर एजुकेशन में जाए, क्योंकि 20%, 30% लोग ही हायर एजुकेशन में आज भी जा रहे हैं.
थैंक यू. इसका मतलब वी गॉट द आंसर टू द क्वेश्चन हियर. आप खड़े हैं यहाँ. Then we'll come to the others.
Finally, that question, there is no answer. No one gave a proper answer to that.
Green Namaskar to the esteemed panel. I have a very small 2-part question. First question is from CCS. I'm from Modi World School, Rajasthan. We are currently operating 5 branches, all in Rajasthan. So as a second generation edupreneur, I want to ask a one-line answer. Which state should I open my next campus in? As per your index. Telangana. Yes, so Telangana is, as per the results, the easiest to operate the schools. Okay. All right, so the second part, my question, thank you for that. And second part is, I would like to ask from Mr. Shailendra Sharma and ma'am from NITI Aayog, that you said that states are not welcoming or asking schools that come to my state, I'll make it easy for you, right? But they are doing investor meets and they are doing so for industries. Don't you think it's about time that schools should be allowed for profit and considered as industry? So K-12 school education for profit with the minimum GST.
Yeah, got it. We got your question.
And
anyone wants to respond on the panel?
On the issue of whether the school should be operating through as a for-profit entity or not, I don't have an opinion. I don't know. फर्क नहीं पड़ता मुझे, मतलब जिस लेंस से मैं देख रहा हूँ मुझे नहीं फर्क पड़ता. Vardan has said when he was talking about कि the state is incapable of running the school. I have been part of the state system that run a very good government school system. I was with Delhi government. For 8 years I was education advisor, and we kind of say led a very serious transformative change in the government schools. And I also use, because I come from a non-profit sector, working in the field of education, I was also of the belief that there are cosmetic changes that can happen in the government school system, but transformative changes are not possible. But I also learned in the course, and I am a firm believer that if a government wishes to do that, they can do that. They can, because it's such a large scale system. You ask which school you are going to open a branch. Now I ask you, how many branches can you open in the country? You cannot match even the tiniest state of the country or even a union territory with all your mighty resources. Let me just complete.
So that's why for profit, when it is going public, when you can ask the money from stock market, then it can go corporate.
My personal opinion is no. Let us not commercialize, let us not see it from that lens. It is. That's right. But in the beginning I said that I have no opinion on that, but I tilt towards the capacity, because then you are letting the state off the hook.
That's true, but sir, PISA ranking के अंदर जो top schools, top countries हैं ना, उसमें mostly for profit हैं.
Okay. Anyway, listen, I have a different point of view. Since I'm sharing, let me offer my point of view. I think you're totally wrong. Democracy, we are a democracy. And as a democracy, we should give the freedom to our people, whether they want to run schools or they want to have a command and control government telling us what we should be doing and what we should be learning. And therefore, the heart of democracy is education. And the education, the more autonomy you can give to education, the more entrepreneurship you can create, that is really a system. I mean, I'll say thank God if we had been just left to our government schools and there had been no private schools in India, you would have no IT revolution in the country. We would be a very much diminished country as a nation. And I just say that one of the best things that we have in our country, whether we have 50% of the kids in private school, government school, that's not important. What is important is that there's choice. There's choice, and freedom and democracy require choice of give choice to its citizens. And therefore, otherwise we might have been ruled by a dictator. What's the difference? Let's have an army dictator take over, as is taken over in many other countries. Who would run our country?
Should I take 90 seconds, sir? What I would say is that you are mixing too many things. And democracy, the way you are, this democracy is not going to allow you to do the thing that you are talking about. And it is this democracy which has come to the conclusion that education, school education should not be in the for-profit sector, period. Now, that can be your personal opinion that you put it in the for-profit and everything would be fine. I don't agree with that. That's a solution. Whether you do it for profit or not for profit, as I said right in the beginning, that I do not have an opinion. However, based upon what I have seen in the education, my tilt is towards keeping it in the non-profit, because that is not the problem. The problem is the regulatory system that we have created. Do you think if you make it to the for-profit and government still retains its regulatory framework, there would be a solution? No. So the solution lies somewhere else. You are mixing up the issues. Sorry.
I'm sorry, are mixing up the issues. The issue was straightforward. His saying that let us reform our present system so that, I mean, if you tomorrow decide to challenge the Unni Krishnan judgment and allow a school, instead of today, schools have to make a profit to survive. We know that. It's the basic fundamental of running an enterprise, that if you don't make any surplus at all, you will not survive. That's your basic economics 1 lesson. An entrepreneur cannot survive unless he meets all his costs and makes a surplus. And therefore, what we are suggesting,
non-profit framework doesn't, I mean, this is a misnomer. If you are a non-for-profit, it doesn't mean that you are not allowed to raise your resources. The only difference is you cannot take money out. I
put all my money, all my time, and I can't get anything out of it.
Why?
Non-profit, you can't take it.
Oh, no. नहीं ऐसा नहीं है
Hold 1 second. देखिए हो Excuse me.
Sir, it is
किसने कहा आपसे स्कूल खोलने के लिए?
Madam, it is not salary, it is remuneration what we are getting.
Hold on. One at a time. This deserves, suddenly we have touched a nerve here. And let us not confine it to 2 people discussing. Let's hear the voices here. Let's hear you. Since you have the mic, why don't you have the advantage of the first mover.
Okay, actually I am having some questions, but just to clarify this, sir, we are investing everything, but we are not allowed to take salary. We are allowed to take remuneration. And because of that remuneration, we call Mandhan in Marathi or Hindi to that. So we are not eligible for loan also. If we want to have personal loan, banks are not allowing us because we are not salarized. We are taking remuneration only. So as being a trustee, we have to do some other business, then and then only we can raise our more funds. Or else we have to take some minimum salary or wages, but it is not called as a salary, it is said to be mandhan or remuneration.
That's one point. You, why don't you express your point? Give him a mic, please.
I mean, I have a larger issue, which is I am one of those people who sort of came into education. I ran 2 budget private schools. 11 years ago I started. And I knew at that time it was going to be difficult because I knew the regulatory environment was very poor. But actually after 11 years, unfortunately, I've been proven completely right. I call myself today a hardcore criminal.
You're speaking to the mic.
I call myself a hardcore criminal because the kind of laws I have to break every day. For example, in Delhi, I'm technically supposed to pay teachers a salary which is a government school teacher salary. I'm supposed to have teachers who have, this qualification, that qualification. So for somebody who's running budget schools, charging 1,200 rupees a month, 5th तक और 8th तक, जो वरदान ने बोला एक तो मान्यता मिलना तो मतलब पैसा देना ही पड़ता है. On top of that, the compliance issues are so much. On top of that, I think madam is saying you can get remuneration. वो भी मेरा accountant कहता है कि भाई पकड़े जाओगे, वो बोलेंगे कि आप 1,50,000 से ऊपर नहीं ले सकते, despite everything I put in there. So I guess my point is that it's very clear that the system, despite the fact that the system is not geared towards attracting good quality people, I call myself, people say कि तूने शुरू क्यों किया? तो मैं कहता मैं पागल हूँ, इसलिए मैंने शुरू किया. Now the thing is that I think all the people, many of the people who are running schools over here are pagal, but that is not a good system that sort of says that you have to be crazy in order to be able to run a school based on very positive intent. So I think, but despite that, we have such high percentage of students who are going to these budget private schools, which means demand from society is very high. Now my question is this, I think सब कुछ छोड़ छाड़ के आपने जो बोला वही है कि पॉलिटिकल विल नहीं है. आई थिंक पॉलिटिशियन को भी मालूम है कि सरकारी स्कूल क्या कर रहे हैं, क्या नहीं कर रहे हैं, क्या कर सकते हैं, वो लोग बहुत डिटेल में बात कर सकते हैं. प्राइवेट स्कूल दे नो कि जो गुरचरण जी कह रहे हैं कि जो नॉन प्रॉफिट क्लॉज है, इट इज़ अ डी फैक्टो डिजूर प्रॉब्लम, विच इज़ बेसिकली सच्चाई ये है कि सब लोग चालू काम करके पैसा निकाल रहे हैं So rather than doing it, and because of that patient capital, institution capital will not come, which means that basically जो अच्छे quality entrepreneurs हैं वो नहीं आएंगे या कम आएंगे, but political will नहीं है because politician सोचता है कि इसमें vote नहीं है इसको करने के लिए.
Okay.
Now the 99 reforms allowed for Infosys to happen because if नारायण मूर्ति से आप पूछते हैं तो बोलता है कि उसके पहले I used to have to go to Delhi and ask for an import license for a computer and I used to have to take 1 year to get that license.
तो आप और मैं अलग अलग बात नहीं कह रहे. We are on the same page.
So I think for the 3 people over here, I would say is that is there a chance that the political will can be changed because there are not enough votes for?
मैं केवल caution कर रहा हूँ कि even when you move it to a for profit, for example मान लेते हैं थोड़ी देर के लिए कि कर दिया, the kind of laws that are there वो फॉर प्रॉफिट में रहने के बावजूद अगर आपकी गर्दन मरोड़नी है तो मरोड़ी जा सकती है. दैट इज द कोर प्रॉब्लम. यू रिमूव दैट
करेंगे तो बड़े कॉर्पोरेट्स आएंगे वो लॉ अपने आप ही बनवा लेंगे.
Okay. Anyone? There are a few.
I have a question, sir.
Is there political will? Is there a way to change?
Yeah. No, I think that was very well articulated what you said.
Yes.
You have the floor, sir.
Yes. सर जैसे कि अभी बात हुई एजुकेशन सिस्टम पे और NEP पे, अभी मैं सर इसी से यहाँ पे एक चीज़ को रिलेट करना चाहता हूँ. आई एम अ रिसर्च स्कॉलर फ्रॉम द एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट. सर जैसा कि यहाँ पे उन्होंने सर ने भी बताया और एक बात सबसे बड़ी ये सामने आई कि आपने NEP में चेंजेस तो बहुत सारे कर दिए और NEP में काफ़ी सारी पॉलिसीज़ बना दी. लेकिन मैं एक चीज़ पहले तो ये बताना चाहूँगा कि सर जब से NEP आया है, NEP के आने के बाद से हमारे यहाँ जो स्कूल्स हैं, स्कूल्स में पहले CBSE बोर्ड्स को फॉलो किया जाता था, लेकिन अब जितने बड़े हाई स्कूल्स हैं, जितने बड़ी हाई स्कूल मतलब आपका टॉप क्लास स्कूल्स हैं, उन्होंने CBSE बोर्ड में तो वो चला रहे हैं बस सिर्फ एक नाम के लिए, लेकिन अब उन्होंने IB बोर्ड को ICSE बोर्ड को फॉलो करना शुरू कर दिया. क्यों? क्योंकि मैं आपको ये सबको एक रिसर्च बेस पे बताना चाहता हूँ. उन्होंने खुद स्कूल्स में मैंने जाके सर्वे भी किया, पेरेंट्स से भी बहुत सारे बातचीत की, तो उसमें ये सामने आया कि भाई हमारे कुछ पेरेंट्स का जो आपका हाई फैमिलीज से हैं, आप जैसे उससे जो ब्यूरोक्रेट्स हैं वो हैं, या कुछ इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट या कुछ वैसे जो टॉप CEOs वगैरह के उनके बच्चे, वो खुद ये कहते हैं कि भाई इंडिया के अंदर तो एजुकेशन सिस्टम ऐसा है कि यहाँ अकॉर्डिंग टू पॉलिटिकल चीज़ें चलती है. जब जिसकी सरकार आती है वो चीज़ वो पढ़ाता है और उसके हिसाब से यहाँ पे चीज़ें बदल जाती है. इसीलिए हमें
Okay, let's now.
And second question. सेकंड क्वेश्चन सर, मैं एक सेकंड यहाँ पे ये कहना चाहूँगा कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स का हर एक, हमारे यहाँ सबसे बड़ी चीज़ क्या है कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स का सब जगह का एक सिनेरियो नहीं है, हर जगह का अलग अलग सिनेरियो है. आपका हर एक एरिया वाइज, आप सिविल लाइंस में जाइए, वहाँ पे एक बहुत पुराना स्कूल है आपका, मतलब दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट का ही है, उसका एक अलग स्टैंडर्ड है. जो केजरीवाल के टाइम में स्कूल्स खोले गए, आपका स्पोर्ट्स स्कूल, BR अम्बेडकर स्कूल, उसका अलग स्टैंडर्ड है. और आपका जो लो एरियाज में स्कूल हैं, MCD स्कूल्स हैं, वो दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट के स्कूल्स हैं, उनका अलग स्टैंडर्ड है. तो हर चीज़ में हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि गवर्नमेंट का एक जगह ही सबका स्टैंडर्ड है, हर एक एरिया वाइज ही स्कूल्स के स्टैंडर्ड.
Okay, so we've got your point. You've made a.
I am Madhusudan. I am representing from Telangana state, and then in our state we have 62% students in private schools, 62% in private schools. We have 12,000 schools in our state, private schools. There are about 24,000 government schools. 24,000 government schools have got 38% of students, and 12,000 private schools have got 62% of students. Okay. So we do not have any expenditure incurring on the government. We are operating independently. But there is a huge discrimination treatment. All regulations are imposed only on the private schools. We need all kinds of NOCs for the child safety. But even in the government school, the child needs a safety. When we need fire NOC, government schools do not need fire NOC. When I applied in RTI, none of the government schools have got the fire NOC. So why this discrimination? That's one point. Secondly, the regulations that are made for the private schools are only on the infrastructure regulations. No regulation is aligned or connected with the quality improvement. And why government schools and private schools should not be treated alike, why they should not be common agenda or common regulations, why they should be a stepmother treatment. In spite of serving 62% of students, all the regulations that they make, and then we have got very strong association there. I am the state president.
Yes.
In spite of advocating to remove certain unnecessary norms, the bureaucrats, they wanted a control over the private schools. If you remove these regulations and norms, our cut money will go off. And for that cut money, they wanted to have all kinds of regulations every year. Since 1994, we had one GO on which the private schools are being run there. And after that, every couple of years, some new regulations are being imposed, which is becoming difficult for the private schools to operate.
Okay. Yes, I was just thinking the irony.
So my question is, why discrimination is the one question between the private and government schools? They must be treated alike because child is a child, whether he may be government school or private.
Look, we have run out of, it's 5:30 and it's time.
एक बात बताइए मुझे, हमारे से गवर्नमेंट मैं एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट की बात नहीं कर रहा, हमसे गवर्नमेंट चोरी क्यों करवा रही है? गवर्नमेंट से पूछिए ना। गवर्नमेंट से मैं ताकि ये बात उठे और आगे तक जाए और आप लोग भी आगे तक पहुंचाएं। आप एक बात बताइए कि गवर्नमेंट जब हम एक फीस लेते हैं, जैसे मैं बजट सर्विस को मैक्सिमम बैठा हूं, हम फीस लेते हैं 500 रुपए से लेकर 2000 रुपए तक, और तनख्वाह हमें देनी पड़ती है, दिखानी पड़ती है, देनी नहीं पड़ती। 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, 1,00,000 रुपए, और हम देते कितनी है? 8,000 रुपए, 10,000 रुपए। क्यों देते हम इतनी तनख्वाह? क्योंकि हमें मिलता है उतना है। दे कहां से आप एक बात बताइए, 70-80 हजार एक क्लास में 30 बच्चे हम रखते हैं, क्योंकि क्वालिटी एजुकेशन हमने देनी होती है। ज्यादा 30 बच्चों से हम ज्यादा रखते नहीं है, क्वालिटी एजुकेशन की वजह से हम 30 बच्चे रखते हैं। अगर हमारी 1,000 रुपए फीस है तो हमारी कितनी हुई? 30,000। हम 70,000 कहाँ से देंगे? क्या जेब से देंगे?
Sir, my question is about regulator, what ma'am said. जो regulator है, are they working as per mentioned in the policy? Are they aware about their role, responsibility, and are they very clear with their intentions and intent? This is my question, because we don't find it anywhere.
Intent are very subjective, so I wouldn't like to have any say on those. But of course, what is evidence is that the SSSA, they have been established, the notifications are out, and now they will start working in the states. Hopefully this year they will start working in the states.
Okay, one more. I have two more questions actually, but one. I just wanted. We call SQUAF is there, and do you think that country like India, जहाँ सब लोग जुगाड़ू है, are they filling up SQUAF genuinely? Because what I observed, I am a state president of Maharashtra, and what I observed, school leaders are taking photos in different angles of one program and they are uploading it just to fulfill the requirement. So how can we decide that SQUAF is authentic?
Yes, so when we develop SQUAF, we have thought about all these possibilities. So if you have seen the SQUAF that has been developed by PARAKH, it has 5 major domains: administration, curriculum, assessment, infrastructure, and inclusivity. And we then, within this domain, the subdomains and the indicator. And then I mark the school as whether they are in Abhilasha, Jagriti, or Pragriti. Now, if I am, as a school, I'm marking something, I'm asking for the evidence. And again, we thought that evidence can be forged as well. Like you said that for the, if I'm saying the teacher training, they might, say that 10 teacher trainings have been conducted and these are the photographs. What we do is when the scope is filled by the school, after it is filled, a committee sits on it and then they also go to the school and visit the school. So maybe at present that is not happening in Maharashtra. So that needs to happen. I believe the Maharashtra SCOF came in when Rahul ji was the SCRT director, but now the director has also changed. I am in constant touch with him and we are trying to see, because it takes time when the person gets transferred, a new person comes for the orientation to take place. And of course you can kind of help them out, tell them and if you require that, PARAKH needs to intervene, you can come to PARAKH and we can tell them to take your help.
Okay, and last question. Sorry, I'm having many questions.
You can email me. I'm readily available.
Not for you.
Thank you.
For ma'am from NITI Aayog. मैम आपने कहा कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम हैं, बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम हम लोग भी, अभी आपने देखा कि हम लोग भी प्राइवेट स्कूल्स बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम फेस कर रहा है, फिर भी हम लोग उसमें से कोई ना कोई रास्ता निकाल के काम ही कर रहे हैं, प्रेजेंटेशंस दे रहे हैं, अच्छा परफॉर्मेंस दे रहे हैं. गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में आपको भी बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम होंगे, लेकिन आपके परफॉर्मेंस उतने नहीं आ रहे, इसलिए लोग हमारे स्कूल्स में आ रहे हैं. अब गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स, गवर्नमेंट की खुद की एक सिस्टम है, आपके पास अच्छे खासे हाईली क्वालिफाइड लोग अपॉइंटेड है, फिर भी आप लोग रिजल्ट नहीं दे पा रहे हो. हम लोग सभी चीज़ों से निकल कर रिजल्ट दे रहे हैं, इसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी गवर्नमेंट की है और ये गवर्नमेंट हमको कंट्रोल कर रही है जो खुद फेल्यूर है. ये चीज़, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग पर्सनली, बट हमारा कहना, जैसे सर ने कहा कि जस्ट वी रिक्वेस्ट गवर्नमेंट कि आप चाइल्ड सेफ्टी के बारे में हमसे बोलो, चाइल्ड हेल्थ के बारे में बोलो, चाइल्ड साइकोलॉजी के बारे में बोलो, बट एकेडमिक्स में अगर जब आप हमको इंटरवेन कर रहे हो तो दैट इज़ समथिंग वी आर फीलिंग वेरी, आई कांट से एनीथिंग.
Okay, madam will give the answer.
Sir, I'm from the state which has been majorly affected, like Singh said previously.
Can you wait 1 second? Let her reply. Just 1 second. Let her reply and then we'll...
I just wanted to add कि मैम we are on your side. I believe that I strongly feel कि discrimination नहीं होना चाहिए private school और government schools में. Irrespective of any kind of school, we collectively need to raise learning outcomes of the students and holistic development of all the students. Having said that, I don't agree with this point of view कि government schools बेकार है और private schools अच्छा कर रहे हैं. We don't have conclusive evidence which says कि private schools बहुत ही अच्छा कर रहे हैं. There are categories of schools, जैसे सर ने भी बोला था कहीं पे कि private schools में भी अलग अलग categories हैं, government schools में भी अलग अलग categories हैं. We are all trying to do that.
Okay, madam. Okay.
I just want to share like one thing.
Okay.
Hi.
Can we... Sir, 1 minute, sir. Please, 1 minute. See, sir, thanks all the leaders. So, thanks for Center for Civil Society. Today, objective is easy of the operating schools index 2026 actually. We are discussing about the only foundation yearly program maximum. So when we are discussing about the foundation year program, what is the B.Ed training, TET training, then training should be in proper way, madam. See, you can take the even aerospace, otherwise you can take the even hotel management, you take the other any organization, their hospitality how it is, but the training problem is their initiation. That also major role. If you take that also, it's better. I hope that, madam.
I just want to add to this once. Just one second.
ऐसे डिस्कशन नहीं हो पाएगा. People will also stay after this on for tea. तो उस समय आप one-on-one conversation कर लीजिएगा. Please be precise and specific and just ask the question.
Amit,
please.
can I just ask one question?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
You-
Hi,
you-
my name is Prerna. I run a not-for-profit, an actual not-for-profit transformational school in Delhi. So first question is, can we please differentiate between deregulation and privatization? I agree, and I'm very happy that it came out in the open that people are being paid 10,000 a month. And when we talk about quality education, is quality education, if it is, which I believe, it equates quality teaching, is quality teaching possible when you are paying the people who are teaching 10,000 a month? Can you move them from rote memorization to things like project-based learning and experiential learning when you are paying them 10,000 a month? The second thing is that I think we need to, like we're talking about dysregulation here, but what we need to regulate is the regulators. Because those people who are supposed to regulate are the ones creating a problem in regulation. So I think one thing that I just want to say in the end, I feel like I agree with the point that you made that only government has the kind of resources to be able to do the kind of work that we require at a large scale. But what we need to understand is that private entities also have a role to play. And this is beautifully shown by public-private partnerships in places like Maharashtra, where you are seeing Akanksha schools, IT schools come into picture. Probably we need a report on how to make that possible in places like Delhi and Haryana, because there is a lot of political and government issues involved, which is not making it possible. So let private entities do the work that they can do better, but let government provide the resources that make it actually possible.
Okay, very good. I do myself, your plea regarding the 10,000 rupees a month salary of a teacher. I think that's, that's a very, very tragic statistic. And I don't know how we can solve it, but surely if you want children to have quality education, as you said, teacher has to be given some dignity. At 10,000 rupees a month, you're not giving dignity to a teacher. So that, I think, is frankly a reality which we should. Now, a lot of still hands are up.
GD sir, there's a student she would like to have.
Yeah, that's exactly I was going to.
Greetings to the dais and greetings to everyone. I'm an 11th grade student pursuing humanities, and my name is Kashish. Now, I have made a question upon the dais' statement of government schools not being able to adhere to the capacity or audit or level of development we expect them to. Now, this directly clashes with something called capacity building, which in India is hindered by two factors, which is audit inefficiencies and consumerism, which has been rising right now. Right. Now, one thing I do want you to recognize is that government schools especially adhere to the poor or lower middle class, and even more specifically to the rural girls, right? Which makes them a part of the population, plus isolation is already there. Now, with further if we follow such beliefs of government schools not being able to adhere, and which also clashes with the capacity building directly, this further lessens their integration into the society. Now, three statements that really put some effort here. Number one, education is often seen as an escape for them, right? Number two, national exam reforms are still there. So we have seen the reality of today. And number three, state capacity is often connected to budget deficits. Now, regulation being performance-based, which is what Sir recommended, because regulation should not be input-based. Regulation being performance-based often leaves fragile systems because it focuses on short-term indicators, not long-term stability, right? Which is one of the, again, it is a very big problem. So why, as a person that is such as a level, right? Why aren't we seeing Viksit Bharat that actually involves everybody, right? And as schools, why aren't we giving frameworks for consumerism or inefficiencies that affect you, so as to not actually interfere in the state sovereignty? But why instead of, why aren't we looking for practical reforms for them? Why are we just giving up? That's my question.
Okay, does anybody want to respond? Yeah, go ahead.
So, I think it's a complicated question, but I will try. I will try. I think we've addressed that. Why does and Sir addressed it in the first thing. I mean, he said democracy requires fundamental choices. I mean, now, unfortunately, the political will is limited. See, education, as you rightly said, is a long-term outcome. It is not driven by election cycles. It is driven by 3, 4, 5-year election cycles, and that is therefore not going to be a primary agenda for any party to look at it long term. So that is why the consumer getting choice is not going to be priority. It is the immediate outcome through SOPs and all kinds of things that are going to get the votes, and therefore investing in long-term teacher training, long-term reforms is not going to be a priority for most governments. I mean, unlike a few. So that's my, and one more point, sir, and then I'll quickly. The second thing is only to say that I know that we are trying to say that government is the only entity with the capacity to address, education needs of all the Indian students. But I think the confusion is that government is taking on all the roles of being the regulator, being the funder, and being the operator. And it need not do all of these three things. Government as operator has failed in businesses which are for profit, the PSU examples, etc. All of them, they are all being supposed to be privatized. There is no reason why government can do much better in education despite not having done better in. So that's the only other point.
We have last two.
Namaskar, I am Lakshya Chhabadiya from Delhi. My question from Indrani ma'am is regarding the holistic progress report card. This report card is beautifully designed, but my question is why it is of 50 page. 50 पेज का अगर एक बच्चे को प्रिंट आउट देंगे तो कितना कॉस्ट बढ़ सकता है और कितना बड़ा जाएगा, कितना बड़ा काम होगा. आज दुनिया बहुत आगे चली गई है. मैंने खुद अभी छुट्टियों में समर वेकेशंस में एक 4 इंजीनियर का काम करके ये ऐप डेवलप कर दिया है. तो मैं तो एक कॉकरोच हूँ आज सरकार के मुकाबले. सरकार के पास इतना होलिस्टिक, जैसे शैलेंद्र जी ने भी कहा, कितने स्कूल खोल सकते हो आप, इतने हो सरकार के आगे. मैं कर सकता हूँ. तो सरकार ने ये होलिस्टिक प्रोग्रेस रिपोर्ट कार्ड क्यों नहीं बनाई अब तक? 50 पेज क्यों खराब कर रहे हैं? वैसे कागज बचाना है हमें. उसके बाद आज भी हम लड़ रहे हैं फॉर प्रॉफिट, नो फॉर प्रॉफिट. भाई दुनिया बहुत आगे जा रही है, हम यहीं लड़ते रह जाएंगे, यहीं खत्म हो जाएगा. 47 आ जाएगा, उसके बाद हम वहीं के वहीं रह जाएंगे.
पहला वाला क्वेश्चन शायद खाली मेरे लिए है, दूसरा वाला सभी के लिए है. कमेंट है. तो पहला वाला क्वेश्चन 50 पेजेस का आपने क्यों बनाया होलिस्टिक प्रोग्रेस कार्ड? ये हमने, अगर आप 50 पेजेस का आप हमारा होलिस्टिक प्रोग्रेस कार्ड देखेंगे, फॉर एग्जांपल फाउंडेशन स्टेज में आपके डोमेन्स दिए गए हैं. फिजिकल डेवलपमेंट, इमोशनल डेवलपमेंट, लैंग्वेज एंड लिटरेसी, कॉग्निटिव डेवलपमेंट. तो ये सारा हमने लिस्ट आउट कर रखा है अलग अलग. अगर मैं इसको नहीं देती, अगर मैं बोलती कि अ टीचर ही पढ़ ले डोमेन्स को, तो वो कम हो जाता. वो जो हमारा नेशनल करिकुलर फ्रेमवर्क फॉर फाउंडेशन स्टेज है और जो हमारा नेशनल करिकुलर फ्रेमवर्क फॉर स्कूल एजुकेशन है, एक है 300 पेजेस का, एक है 600 पेजेस का. आप सब एजुकेशन में काम कर रहे हैं. ऑनेस्टली हाथ उठाकर बताइए, आप में से कितने लोगों ने ये डॉक्यूमेंट पढ़ा है? ओके, आई होप दोज आर ऑनेस्ट हैंड्स. सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज दैट जब हमने उसमें उन दोनों डॉक्यूमेंट में कॉम्पिटेंसीज की बात की है, अगर एज ए टीचर मैंने वो नहीं पढ़ा है तो मैं वो कॉम्पिटेंसीज कभी भी मुझे मालूम नहीं होगा कि फाउंडेशन में क्या कॉम्पिटेंसीज चाहिए, प्रिपरेटरी में, मिडिल में, सेकेंड। इसलिए वो कॉम्पिटेंसीज लेकर हमने होलिस्टिक प्रोग्रेस कार्ड में डाल दिया है। अगर वो माइनस कर दे, मेरा जो होलिस्टिक प्रोग्रेस कार्ड का जो असेसमेंट है वो खाली 4 पेजेस का है। एंड फॉर योर इंफॉर्मेशन, अभी हमने होलिस्टिक प्रोग्रेस कार्ड को डिजिटाइज्ड भी कर लिया है एंड द स्कूल्स आर already on board for the digital HPC.
Thank you. Okay, the lady over there has been waiting patiently for a long time. Let that be, unfortunately, the last question.
Thank you very much, esteemed panelists and educationists, for wonderful insights we have gained all along this past 1.5 hours. I just have 2 simple questions. The controversy between private and government will continue forever. However, the basic crux is to make education accessible to every child in the country. I think that is the basic purpose of education. My first question is every child getting the education that he or she deserves? Secondly, sir was talking about autonomy, very important, and ma'am talked about standardization in their army welfare schools. Now the question is, should it be autonomy versus standardization? Because if you have autonomy, is it possible to achieve standardization in education? That is my second question. Thank you so much.
Okay, so anyone? Okay.
As I said, autonomy and standardization will work both hand in hand. We cannot have autonomy without standardization. As I said, in Army Public School environment, standardization is very important because there are transferable jobs. The officers and the jawans, they move every 2 years. The child has to go to an environment where he feels at home. Like if he comes from school A to school B, he has to follow the same norms.
Yes, ma'am, I totally agree. This is possible in the army welfare setup. My question is it possible in reality other than the army welfare setup?
Somebody else has to answer.
Yeah.
Well, you worked in other places too, so you should answer from your perspective.
So no, but you cannot give a free hand to the principals to run a school.
Exactly. So autonomy versus
standardization. So there has to be some accountability that the principals are.
Yeah.
There is a basic lacuna in our education system, which is a plague. Now when I ask my teachers, how many of you take this profession by choice and how many of you take this as a compulsion, you'd be surprised that 60% of teachers have this as a compulsion. So unless we change that mindset, the education system is not going to be
Okay, now that's a big big cultural question. We can't listen. I think all I want to tell you is that this has been a very, very interesting and rewarding discussion because it involved everyone. And so that was really the best part for me because I frankly learned a lot from you. And so let me thank you all for coming here. Thank the distinguished panelists for their contributions. And I think this gentleman still wants to say something, but I would suggest oh gosh, okay, you have the last word, sir. This is a democracy.
For the standardization and autonomy part, I would like to say, why do we need standardization? Give full autonomy. Make the exams very difficult. Right now, the board exam mark sheet is worth nothing. Because the board mark sheet, you don't get admission in any college or university based on the board mark sheet. So you just give autonomy, make the exam tougher, make it worthwhile, and let the schools teach however they want to teach, as long as they can get the students to perform in those exams. That's all.
She wants the
let's not have simple solution to complex problems.
Well, I happen to be on your side on that because I'm a classical liberal and I do believe in the autonomy of the human being. And you need a state, but we need not a heavy hand of the state. The state should be an enabler for human beings to achieve their capabilities. Thank you all.
With a huge round of applause, let us thank our... Let us thank our panelists for this engaging discussion. Today's conversation reinforced an important idea that achieving the vision of Viksit Bharat requires education systems that are both accountable and enabling. To make our students future ready, let us redirect our energy towards learning and capacity building, as only a capable, inspired, and creative population can lead us to a Viksit Bharat. Requesting our panelists to remain on stage. I now invite Dr. Amit Chandra on stage to felicitate our panelists. We also have among us our education thought leaders, a collective of school leaders across India who engage in education philosophy, policy, and practice. We request Dr. Kuldeep Anand to come up on stage and felicitate Mr. Gurcharan Das.
सर बाहर अगर यहाँ पे आते हैं पिक्चर अच्छा है
May I now request Ms. Nandita Mishra to come up on stage and felicitate Dr. Indrani Bhaduri. Dr. Amit, please stay on stage.
Nandita ma'am. Don't do this.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Mr. Madhusudan Sadula to facilitate Dr. Taneya Singh.
Ma'am, please come to the side. In the camera. Wait for the video.
Thank you, sir. I request Mr. Lakshay Chhabaria to come up on stage and felicitate Mr. Shailendra Sharma. Thank you, sir. Now, requesting Mr. John Xavier Tangaraj to felicitate Mr. Vardan Kabra. Thank you, sir. Lastly, may I request Ms. Jagruti Dharmadhikari to felicitate Mr. Sunita Johar. Thank you, ma'am. We are grateful to all our panelist speakers for their time and insights. Let's have a huge round of applause for their insights, time, value, and energy that they've put into this discussion.
Get closer a little bit. Shall we come now? Yeah, that would be good.
We now move towards the end of today's event, Reforming India's School Education, Rise for Viksit Bharat. Please share your reflections and ideas of the event on your social media using #RISE. May I now invite Mr. Nitesh Anand, Associate Director of Research and Training Programs, Center for Civil Society, to formally close the ceremony and deliver his vote of thanks. Audience, please be seated for the next 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chevy. I will not take much of your time. My responsibility primarily is to announce that the snacks are open. And yeah, you have all been amazing as audience, and this evening, this afternoon actually has been possible in the truest CCS traditions. That is the tradition of Shastrarth and Vad Vivad. We enjoyed every moment of it, and I hope all of you got something important to carry from today. I hope in a few years when we will be meeting on this topic again, we will not be discussing Rise for Viksit Bharat, but we will be discussing the realities of Viksit Bharat. On that note, I thank you all and wish you a good rest of the evening. Thank you. Let me also invite all my team members to join on stage for a group photo, and then we will call it an evening. Thank you so much. Conversation थोड़ा सा interesting था, but